Hello, good evening. My name is Richard. Welcome back to the channel. This is over and over and over again. It is, of course, the Arsenal Women's Show. We've had a little break away from the channel. There's been a few things going on. I haven't really had time to get involved in the channel, unfortunately, but we are back. It's the Arsenal Women's Show. Lots and lots to talk about, of course. We're going to look back all the way to the North London derby, of course, the last match, which was a great victory. Of course, it was. We know that, which was great. There's the international break, of course, the Nations League, a couple of mixed performances for the Lionesses, of course. So we'll look back on that as well. Some good performances from some of the Arsenal players as well during that international break. And of course, the WSL is back on Sunday. West Ham are visiting Meadow Park in a big game we have to win. So that is going to be exciting, isn't it? So yeah, loads to get through, loads of other stuff. We will take your comments and questions, of course, as always. It's all coming up the other side of this. Now, you might have noticed there's no Andreas tonight. There's no Ange tonight either. She's out. Andreas is actually flying over to London. A Friday night issue, of course. What we need to do is, of course, to stop this happening is we need to get the travel companies to make cheaper flights on a Saturday when the game's on a Sunday, so Andreas can fly on a Saturday. So he can still do the show, but unfortunately he can't. But we do have some videos, of course, from Andreas, as always. And yeah, we are going to get into it then. So where else can we start? We like to do things chronologically here, of course. So we need to go back, almost, 2 weeks, isn't it? To what was a fantastic day at the Emirates. Well, I mean, it couldn't really have gone much better, could it? A brilliant Arsenal performance, pretty much from start to finish. And of course, beating Spurs 5-0 is always going to sound good, isn't it? It's always a great result. I do think we have to understand that in the women's game in particular, the North London derby doesn't quite have the same feelings as it does in the men's team yet, mainly because, you know, Spurs and Arsenal don't really have that history, do they, playing each other, particularly at the top level. So I'm sure it will come over in years to come, but it's whenever Arsenal play Spurs, whether it's a kickabout on a Sunday afternoon over the park or whether it is a top flight, a women's game, we have to win, don't we? Of course we do, and we did. And it was a really, really good performance, wasn't it? Some great goals in there as well. And yeah, it was the type of performance that we have produced quite a lot under Renee since she's took over. Not managed it in those big games, of course, in the last few weeks, as we know. But yeah, it's always nice to beat Spurs like that, isn't it? And, you know, another really, really good performance at the Emirates. And it's become our home, hasn't it? That the girls now seem to feel comfortable there. They've got you. I think we had struggles at the beginning with some of the games, didn't we, on the bigger pitch and this kind of stuff. And I think that we didn't always get the best results at the Emirates, did we, at the beginning? But now we seem to have figured it out, and just by playing there as often as we did, of course, a big crowd as well helps, doesn't it? Wow, what a crowd it was! 56,000, I think it was, wasn't it? Incredible. And if you did go to the game, or even if you didn't, I'm sure you've seen Andreas's vlog, which was quite sensational as always. So if you haven't seen it yet, do check that out on the channel, the vlog of the Tottenham game. And of course, because Andreas isn't here tonight, he's at the game on Sunday. He'll be doing a vlog of that as well. Although he's not here in person, he has, of course, given us his thoughts on the Spurs game. So let's listen to a little bit of what Andreas made of that Tottenham game.
So let's look on the WSL and our last game. It was against Spurs, the North London derby. The result, Arsenal 5, Spurs 0. Yeah, it's always great to beat Spurs, and to trash them with a 5-0 is fantastic, amazing, and I was very happy on this day. Very satisfied with the way we played, with our performance, and the facts. We had 56,784 as attendance. That's fantastic. The atmosphere in the stadium was great. I hope you could see this in the matchday vlog. And yeah, the statistics say we had 65% ball possession. Then we had 27 shots, Spurs had 6. We had 12 shots on goal, Spurs had 2. We had 10 corners and Spurs 1. So what do you need more on statistics to prove that it was absolutely dominant performance? And I would say it was one of our best performances in this season.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really disagree with much of that, can you? I mean, we've had quite a lot of good performances, and I think we don't want to. It's Tottenham, and we can get carried away. We don't lose track of the fact that they're a poor Tottenham team, or they certainly were on the day. They've not had a great season, but you know, we did everything that we could possibly have done, and yeah, it was a really good performance. And yeah, I mean, as Andreas said there with his statistics, there we totally dominated the game from pretty much from start to finish. I mean, Andreas said Tottenham had 6 shots. I can't actually remember any of them. I think they definitely had one save that I can remember, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it was one-way traffic, wasn't it? And the only disappointment, really, you could say, was that we could easily have scored 10 goals, really, with some of the chances that we had. The Tottenham goalkeeper, I thought, played pretty well. And we could have had a few more goals, which would have been nice, but it doesn't matter, does it? We'll take a 5-0 all day long in this particular game. And yeah, I mean, not too much to concern ourselves with, really, was there? No injuries. And of course, the big moment came, didn't it, in the second half when Chloe Kelly came on. What a reception she got as well from the crowd. And I do feel as though the performance that she gave for that, half an hour, 25 minutes that she played, I was really encouraged by that. I thought she played well. She showed some nice touches. She seemed really up for it. And she seemed on great form. And I was a little bit concerned, thinking, she hasn't really played much football this season. Is it going to take her a bit of time to settle in? And yeah, you know, let's face it, it's early days, but I was really encouraged by her performance, actually. I thought she played really well. And yeah, that was really good to see. And I think she's going to add a lot in the games that she can play for the rest of this season. I'm really excited now to see how she can develop with us. And, you know, she's going to be out of contract in the summer. Is it going to be a good, you know, are we going to decide to make that transfer permanent? Because I certainly would definitely be in favour of that, because I thought she played well against Tottenham. Yeah, let's see how she gets on over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We've got some big games coming up, a lot of games to play. I'm sure she'll play a lot of football, and I'm sure she's going to do well. So yeah, I was really encouraged by that. But the reception she got from the crowd was fantastic, wasn't it? I think everybody is excited to see her back at Arsenal. She's a top quality player, and I think she's going to bring a lot to this team as well in games that we're going to need her. So yeah, that was everything really about the game against Tottenham was pretty positive, wasn't it? You know, the performance, the goals. Of course, there's one particular goal that we'll talk about in a minute. But just all round in general, I thought we played really, really well. Andreas, we've got a few more thoughts on that game, but we have got a few comments, of course, already. Ag with us, I've missed you all. Yeah, I've missed you guys as well. LG says, evening, glad the women are back. I've been bored and sick to death watching the men's team. Like, exactly, my friend. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've almost dropped out of that completely now. I just cannot be doing with it. I'm sorry. So Terry says, good evening, Richard, all in the chat. Don't forget to hit that like. Yes, please hit that like button nice and early. Egg says Sweden, Wales. Sweden did not do well. Well, no. Hi, Rich, long time. Oh, Hada, you've changed your name. Good to see you back, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Terry says 5-0 sounds good, but to be honest, it wasn't that impressive. It should have been 8, 9 or 10. Still missing too many chances. That's why we have ended up third and 10 points behind Chelsea. Well, no, I mean, you're right. You know, we could easily have scored a few more goals, but I think when you win 5-0, I don't think you can really complain about missed chances. It's more in the games that we drop points and we miss chances, or they're the games that those missed opportunities are a problem. I'm not saying, you know, missed chances aren't great anyway, but when you win 5-0, you're not really that. I'm not particularly concerned about missed chances. If you win 5-0, you win 10-0, yeah, okay, it's Tottenham, it'd be nice, but realistically, it doesn't make too much difference. It's in the games maybe when we draw 1-1 and we've missed 5 or 6 good chances that we should have won 3 or 4-1. That's when the missed chances come back to haunt you because we've dropped points. We didn't drop points. We had a 5-0 win. It's good for the goal difference. And, you know, let's face it, you don't get too many 8, 9, 10-0s anymore, do you? So, no, you're right. We did miss chances, and we could have scored a few more, absolutely. But ultimately, I'm pretty satisfied with that afternoon's work from the girls. I thought we just played really well. Greg says, "Evening all, up Lagunas indeed." Terry says, "Greg, well, my man, good to have you back in the Guna. It is a Guna arena here, exactly. That's what it's all about, isn't it?" Ag says, "Kelly in the national team." Yes, she was in the national. Well, I mean, it was a surprise. She only got in, didn't she, because of injuries. Beth Mead pulling out was the main reason. But yeah, I mean, she's got to play more football to be considered for the national team, and I'm sure now between now and the next international break, she's going to play a lot of football, and I'm sure her performances will justify her being in the national team in the next break, and obviously in the summer for the Euros as well. So yeah, I was surprised. Maybe the way it came about because it was from an injury that she got in, but I'm not surprised she's in the squad. You know, I think she's been a consistent member of the squad for quite some time, and as Serena said, she's got stuff in the bank, hasn't she, from her performances? So yeah, it was nice that she got in. It was a shame for Beth, obviously, but injuries happen, don't they? Joe's ever say doing good evening to you as well. Hope you're doing well. Terry says, let's hope we don't buy her at the end of the season, give her back to City. No, you see, I don't agree with that. I don't think, you know, City are one of our rivals, aren't they, now in the league, battling for that top 3 place. So I wouldn't give her back to City because we don't want to give them a good player, and she's a good player. Ryan says, you're never that impressed. Well, he's hard to please. Terry's hard to please. That's what it is, and that's fine, isn't it? Ag says, pleased to USA and Emma lost to Japan. Yeah, that was a shame, wasn't it? Although I suppose, you know, we've got a couple of American players in our team. Now just says there, hope Viv will back to Arsenal. No, we don't want Viv back. Absolutely not. We've got a nice replacement, haven't we? Egg says great match against Spurs. Yeah, of course it was a great match against Spurs. Absolutely. Any victory against Spurs is a great match. This season we played them twice. 8-0 was the aggregate score, so that's not too bad, is it? So of course North London, we know what colour it is. It's always going to be the same colour, isn't it? Joe says, yeah, we want to talk about this as well. Joe says, what do you think about the plan to suspend relegation of WSL to expand the number of teams from 12? Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later on because obviously that's a big bit of news that's come out today. I wasn't sort of preparing it earlier in the week, but yeah, I do want to talk about that because I do think it's important for women's football in this country, the WSL in particular. Joe says, I was pleased with Japan win. Yeah, I think we were deep down, of course. Any defeat for Emma Hayes is a nice moment, isn't it? Let's be honest. Ag says, yes, Kelly belongs in national team. Yeah, I think she does, absolutely. Terry says, remember Arsenal ain't a charity, fed out of everyone's leftover. Well, I wouldn't say Chloe Kelly's a leftover. I think she's still a very, very good player. And I think she's still got a lot to offer. I think in the men's team, I think we have bought a few leftovers from Chelsea and Man City, but I don't think in this case, I wouldn't necessarily think that's true. I think Chloe Kelly's still a great player who can offer us a lot. Let's see. You know, at the end of the day, it's only a loan. If it doesn't work out, if she doesn't bring enough to the team, she can go City. She can go anywhere. But I personally think she's going to offer enough for us to want to buy her at the end of the season if we can get that deal done, rather than letting her go back to a team where we're battling against them, aren't we? Ag says Netherlands, Cyprus 12-0, yeah, with lots of goals. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, it's Cyprus, isn't it? Before we move on for the Tottenham game, though, Andreas has got a couple more thoughts to give us, and let's listen to them because they're always it's always worth listening to, isn't he, Andreas? The Lord.
I think Spurs had their first shot on goal in the second half, so yeah. And Claire Hunt, she had a terrible day in the office. Of course, when you play against Leslie Russo in form, then it's difficult to defend her. Yeah, we are still in the race for Champions League spot, 3 points behind United, 2 points ahead of City. Great result, very satisfied. Come on, you Gunners.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what's there not to like? And of course, the Emily Fox goal at the end was something quite special, wasn't it? You know, any goal against Spurs is worth celebrating, but that one in particular, a great strike. Her first goal in the WSL, a second goal, of course, for us because she did score in the Champions League, didn't she, against Valerenga? in one of Rene's first matches. But that goal was a really good hit, wasn't it? The way she kind of struck the ball, it was so sweet, wasn't it? The way it just kind of lifted into the top corner was a fantastic strike, wasn't it? A great goal. And of course, Leslie Russo, we can't not talk about Leslie Russo in this game because she was quite magnificent. Her all-round performance, her running, and just all you know, I know I'm always wanting Stina in the team, of course, and I still like to see Stina in the team, but I think Leslie Russo now has become a great all-round player now, isn't she? She's a fantastic centre forward. She's starting to score the goals that we always knew she could score, and she brings so much to the team. And her performance against Tottenham was almost faultless, wasn't it? Really. And yes, okay, the first goal was taken off her. It was an own goal. Yeah, when you see the replays, it did come off the defender, but she certainly deserved the goal that she got in the end. Another great finish, and yeah, her performance was brilliant. And if she can keep these performances going for Arsenal and for England, then you know it's what we need, isn't it? Let's be honest, you know. And yeah, her all-round play. It wasn't just the fact that she scored the goal. It was just her all-round play was fantastic, wasn't it? Again, another great performance from Leslie, and yeah, that is she's really settled in now, hasn't she, into this team? And yeah, she's almost now one of the first names on the team sheet. And I still think you can accommodate her and Stina, and we have done, and we've seen it work. So I'm not saying Stina should be pushed out anymore. There's still room for both of them in the team, but I think Leslie now has got to be one of the first names on the team sheet, hasn't she? Just performances, and of course Mariona as well. Just wow, what a player she's proven to be as well. We always knew how good she was, but when you see her week in, week out, I mean, I only saw glimpses of her obviously playing for Barcelona in the games that we played against them, 1 or 2 Champions League games, and of course for Spain in the tournaments and stuff. But to see her playing week in, week out for Arsenal, you just see what a fantastic player she is. She's got everything, hasn't she? Just incredible. And, you know, she's scoring goals as well now. She's settling in. She's scoring almost every game at the moment. And, yeah, what a fantastic player. And, you know, I know there's always going to be talk of Viv, isn't there, and stuff like that. And we know it was one or the other, basically, wasn't it, that the club could accommodate one or the other. I personally think that Lionesses made the right decision there, looking at what Mariona brings a team. She doesn't score a number of goals that Viv scored for us. No, she never will. That's not her strength, is it? It's everything else that she brings. I just think she's a magnificent footballer. And the more magnificent footballers we can have playing for our team, the better it is. And yeah, let's enjoy her because, you know, she's in fantastic form at the minute. Yeah, just absolutely brilliant. There we go. So we've had a few more comments as well. Greg says Viv and a pain in the arse. She's better off where she is. Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with you. Terry says I'd only keep her as if the laundry lady left. Yeah, there you go. Joe says Foxley looked shocked, laughing. Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you score a goal like that, I wouldn't necessarily say you're shocked. I mean, you don't. Every time you hit a shot like that, 9 times out of 10, they don't go in the top corner, do they? They go over the bar or somewhere else, but that one was you know, the one that went in, and it was fantastic, wasn't it? So yeah, she was just obviously shocked. I think we're all a little bit shocked when we was like, wow, wasn't we? It was one of those moments, wasn't it? Terry says, to be fair, Russo's best game for us. Yeah, no, I think it was, and I think it's just an accumulation of her season, really. I think she's getting better and better and better. And yeah, I agree. I thought it was her best game for us overall. Over the 90 minutes, she was magnificent. I say virtually faultless. There you go. John says here, guys, we're celebrating beating Spurs. Really, we're celebrating as if we're beating Spurs. Well, no, I mean, it is our local derby, isn't it? And I did say before that, you know, this isn't a great Spurs team. And they're still quite new to playing at the top level, aren't they? When you look at the history, they've only been in the WSL 3 or 4 years, you know. So it's a new rivalry, but it's just nice to beat Spurs. We're not celebrating. Well, I mean, we're celebrating, of course, but we're not getting carried away. It doesn't mean anything other than the North London derby. That's what it means, which is important. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, Chelsea is the game now for us. That's the benchmark, and beating Chelsea obviously means a hell of a lot more than beating Tottenham in the women's game. Absolutely it does, of course, because Chelsea are the top team. They've been the top team for a number of years, and now that's the aspiration that we've got to reach. So, of course, it's not like beating Chelsea. But let's be honest, if we can't enjoy a 5-0 win against Spurs, then honestly, what's the point of watching football? Come on. It's great, isn't it? LG says, I never want to see Stina in the team ever again. I'm sick of it. No, I mean, I think what's happened is, and you know, I love Stina, and I'll never I'll always have a lot of time for her. I just think that the way that the team's evolved over the last year or so, the way that Russo has come in and evolved as well, she has been pushed back. I still think she's a useful sub to come on. She can do a job. I do think her and Russo can play together in certain moments, in certain games, and that's great. And I think Stina's a great player to have in the squad. I mean, there's not many players of her quality that can score a number of goals that she scores. That's on the bench every week. We're lucky to have a player like that on our bench, really, when you think about it. Look at the men's team. We can't find a goal scorer anywhere. We haven't got a striker anywhere. And Arsenal have got two. The women have got two fantastic strikers. And that's a luxury to have. And I think we should appreciate that. And I don't expect Stina. I mean, I think coming up in the next few weeks, we've got a lot of big games in different competitions. I think she'll start a few games and she won't let us down. She'll score goals. She will. But yeah, I think maybe the teams, the style and stuff is maybe evolving a little bit away from Stina, and this might well be her last season. And it'll be a shame because, you know, she's got 7 goals this season. She's hardly started. Come on. I mean, her goal scoring record is great. She's got 50, I think, is it 50 goals in just over 100 appearances? And so many of them have been from the bench. You can't knock her goal scoring record. Maybe now, yeah, I think that the team's evolving away from her a little bit, but I've still got a lot of time for her. I still want to see her playing, and I still think she can offer a lot in the rest of this season, and then we'll see. It may well be her last season here, but we'll have to wait and see. Joe says, has she improved since Jonas left, and if she has, why? I think she has improved. Well, has she improved? Her performances have got better. I don't know if you say she's improved as a player. Maybe what Rene's done perhaps is tweak the way we play more suited to Russo, and as time's gone on, she's maybe started to realise that Russo's so important that she's starting to build the attack around her and Mariona, and maybe that's why we're seeing a better version of Leslie Russo now for that reason. Whereas I think before Jonas didn't do that so much, did he? I don't think he didn't set the team up around Leslie Russo. So maybe she wasn't able to shine quite as much. And obviously settling into a new team, her first season is always going to be more difficult. Obviously, you get the longer that you're at a club, the more settled you feel, the better your performances come. That's natural anyway. But I do feel as though maybe the way that the team structure now, it more suits Leslie, and you can see the performances have improved on the back of that. I would like to have seen how Jonas would have developed that with Mariona in the team this season. He didn't really get much of a chance to develop that, did he? Because he'd gone quite early in the season. So it would have been interesting to see how that would have worked out if Jonas had been here. But we can't worry about that, can we? At the end of the day, we are where we are now. And I agree, Leslie now looks a much better player in this Arsenal team than she did before. She's got a lot more goals than she did before. And the change of manager obviously is a factor in that. And I just think it's just a few little tweaks into the position of where she's playing, the way that the structure of the team is around her is probably the reason. But yeah. But there you go. Aggie says, why? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't want to get rid of her. She doesn't get enough opportunities as it is anyway. And I don't think that's going to change too much. You'll probably get a few more games in recent weeks coming out. The FA Cup she'll probably play. But we'll see. Greg says, I heard it said Russo and Caldente are the 2 best players in the WSL. Well, I mean, they're certainly up there, aren't they? I mean, are they the best 2 players in the WSL? I think there might be 1 or 2 players at Chelsea that would maybe argue that case, and probably rightly so. But they're certainly two of the best. They are. I wouldn't say they are the 2 best. They're certainly 2 of the best. There's no doubt about that. We're very lucky to have them both, aren't we? Let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic watching the pair of them this season. Ag says Mariona is fantastic. Yeah, she is. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Terry says, I'll take Viv Anderson back. Ryan says Russo's getting better and better. Yeah, she is, absolutely. She's been brilliant. LG says Russo's best game for me was Liverpool away in December. She was almost flawless. No, she had a good game then as well. I mean, to be honest with you, you could look at a lot of games, pretty much most games this season, you could pick out and say, well, that was a great performance from Russo. She's had so many of them. But I just thought the Tottenham game last weekend the weekend before was just a really, really good performance. No, she's played well a lot this season, let's be honest. Terry says, let's be honest, Spurs women are as good as our men. Saying, well, yeah, they're probably not even that good, are they? Let's be honest. Greg says, Stina needs to play. She gives the opposition a chance to touch the ball when she runs offside. No, I mean, I think Stina's become, because she's not starting regular. That season before we signed Leslie Russo, she played every game virtually, and you could see how sharp she looked. You know, the goals that she scored in big games, in big moments. And I think obviously last season she was having to come off the bench. It's more difficult to get. I think when you're a striker, it's the worst position to be coming off the bench because you're not getting a rhythm in your game. You know, if you start a game and you're a striker, if it takes you 10 or 15 minutes to really get into your flow, and maybe you miss a chance or two early on, you've got 75 minutes to make up for that. When you come on as a substitute as a striker, if you're only on for 20 minutes, if it takes you 10 minutes to really get up to the pace of the game, which is so important when you're playing up front, then you miss a couple of chances. You might not get any more because the game's over. And it seems worse. You look as though your performance has been worse. Whereas I think in games where Stina started, sometimes she started a little bit slowly, grown into the game and got better and scored. The Man City game away, for example, was the most recent probably example of that. So I do think it's more tough. I think you can come on in different positions in the pitch. If you're a defender or if you're a midfield player, even if you're a wide sort of wing player, I do think it's slightly easier to get into the flow of the game. Whereas I think when you're playing up front, it's so much more. You've got to be sharp. You've got to take your chances because you don't get 100 chances there, especially if you're coming off the bench. You might get one. You run for 15 minutes, you might get one chance. If you don't take that one chance, everyone's going to say, oh, they've missed another chance. But when you've only got one chance, I mean, Leslie Russo misses 4, 5, 6 chances. It doesn't matter because she's on the pitch for 90 minutes usually, and she'll get another one and eventually she'll score. Which happened to Stina against Man City, didn't it? She missed a few chances. She stayed on the pitch and she got herself a goal that won us the game. And that's what you get with Stina. And that's what you get with most strikers. If she's playing regular, she'll score a lot of goals. If she's coming off the bench, it's going to be more difficult for her. But she's still doing a job. She's still got 7 goals this season. And she's going to get a lot more, I think, before the end of the season as well. Ag says, Stina, very welcome home to us. Well, no, we don't want to get rid of her, do we? We don't. Terry says, Stina scores important goals. She does. Yeah, absolutely. She scores important goals. And that's why she's such an important player for us. And I think she has been an important player for us. And we shouldn't just dismiss her because Leslie Russo is playing so well. LG says Jonas ball is the same as Arteta ball, terrorist football, where the system overthrew. No, I can't agree with that. Yeah, that's why Mariona and Russo never expressed themselves before. Well, I don't think Mariona was here long enough under Jonas to be able to do that anyway. I think when you come from, she's been at Barcelona 10 years and moving to England, playing in the WSL, adapting, was always going to take probably 10 games. And she didn't get 10 games under Jonas. So we'll never know how that would have worked. I do think with Russo, we've got a more of an accurate time frame with her because she played a whole season under Jonas and a bit of this season. So yeah, but I kind of agree with the tactics were too rigid under Jonas a lot more than what they are now. We are playing more freedom now and it's much better to watch. John says there is no way Ruto and Caldente are the best. No, I wouldn't say the best in WSL. They are 2 of the best, absolutely. But there's great players. A lot of teams, let's be honest, a lot of the top teams have got great players. Chelsea, obviously. Guru Wright has just won the she won London Player of the Year or something, didn't she? And she's one of the best players in the WSL, there's no doubt about that. And I say Chelsea have got 1 or 2, unfortunately. Modern Wiltshire with us says, evening all, how much are tickets for the ladies team? It depends on the game and where it is. The Emirates, are they still 12 quid? Last time I went, over 12 quid at the Emirates. Meadow Park's a bit cheaper. But I'm not sure what the tickets are for tomorrow's game. Obviously, Sunday's game is sold out, but I don't know how much the tickets are now for the WSL games at Meadow Park. If anyone knows. So last time I went to the Emirates, it was, well, actually, we got it cheaper. It was, I think the proper price was £12, because we got on with a supporters club. We got a discount, and I think we paid about 8 quid or something, which was amazing, really. Which you can't really grumble with, can you? Joe says, what I find poor is a crowd of 56,000 and no atmosphere. I mean, I think maybe depending on where in the ground you were, the atmosphere on the telly didn't always come across fantastic. I watched it on the telly, that game. Andreas thought the atmosphere was great. I thought it came across well in his video, but yeah, I think it's just where you are in the ground maybe. But you're never going to get the same atmosphere at a women's game, especially at the Emirates, where the demographic of the crowd, when you've got 56,000, you've got a lot of children, you've got a lot of families. They're not the people that's going to be getting up and singing and shouting and jumping around, are they? And you've got a lot more of those at the Emirates, haven't you? So you're never going to get that same kind of atmosphere, because that's the crowd that you get at women's football. And we can't turn people away and say, sorry, you're not going to create an atmosphere, so we don't want you here. We want as many people as possible to be able to see the games, but it's going to suffer an atmosphere because you're not getting enough of I think at Meadow Park it's different because it's a smaller crowd. It's generally the more boisterous people. So I think you get a better atmosphere there because it's a smaller number, and the away games as well. I think at the Emirates, if you're going to fill the Emirates with 56,000 people, you're not going to get as many a higher percentage of those who want to sing and shout and do the singing and get the atmosphere up. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. I mean, it might change over years. I'm sure it will, but at the moment, that's where we are. Greg says, Stina is great. She'd get in most teams. It's a shame we don't play with two forwards. We'd be devastated. Yeah, no, I agree. And I said, I don't think there is a team that would have Stina on the bench every week, a striker of that quality who scores that many goals. They wouldn't. She would walk into pretty much every team in the WSL. Pretty much, I'd say. Don't start thinking of any team which you get into Chelsea's team on a regular basis, maybe not. But everybody else, I think she would be a starter, to be honest. I really do. But anyway, again, I think we should be grateful that we've got a player like Stina as a backup, if that's what she is. Ag says, the Aussie girls not on fire anymore on national team. Well, no, I mean, they didn't do particularly well, did they, the Aussies? But I don't really care too much how they get on for their national teams because I'm not Australian. I don't really care. I care how they play for Arsenal, really. But no, they didn't have a great international break, did they? Terry says, good evening, morning, wheelchair. Good to see you come back. Indeed, it's always great when people return. John says, who do you think is WSL player of the season? Oh, that's an interesting one, isn't it? WSL player of the season. Well, okay, we'll have a think about that. Put you thinking. I'll have a think about it and I'll come up with I'll have to have a little think about player of the season. That's an interesting one, actually, because there's been a few good players this season, actually, in WSL. The quality at the top end has been really good, hasn't it? But we'll think about that, yeah. The under-18s game, yes, you've got a quarter-final been played tonight, of course, at the Emirates. It is Arsenal 1, Man United 1 at half-time. Oh, fantastic. Good. If you can keep us up to date with that, that'd be fantastic, actually. LG says, Stina lacks a killer instinct. She's too timid. See, I don't agree with that. I don't think she does lack a killer. I think when she's inside the penalty area, the ball comes to her, I think she's got that killer instinct. Because she doesn't charge around kicking people, she might come across that way. I think she's quite a laid-back character, isn't she? She's not one for the spotlight. She's quite calm. And I think as a striker, sometimes you need that calmness. And you can see in front of goal, sometimes quite a lot, she displays that calmness. But no, I disagree with that. I do think she does have a killer instinct. She's just quite a laid-back character. Maybe that can be mistaken for, a bit like Megan Mesut Ozil in the men's team a few years ago. He maybe seemed a little bit like he wasn't interested, but it was just his demeanour on the pitch. And I don't necessarily think that was true. YouTube censors our free speech, says, say that to her face. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. Well, I wouldn't anyway, because I love Stina. Terry says, at least Arteta said, don't judge Havertz until he's played 55 games. Has he played 55 games? He probably has. Greg says, 56,000 against a team that are rubbish. He's it's a great crowd. Of course it is. And the more people that come, the better. But it's just the demographic of the crowd now has changed, isn't it? When there's that many. Terry says, problem of having families at the women's game is mums talking all the way through the game just so the men and kids can't enjoy themselves. I don't think that's true, but it's quite funny. John's gone for Baltimore. Yeah, I mean, she's been a great player for Chelsea, obviously. I mean, look how they look at their results this season. I think the WSL player of the season has to be a Chelsea player. Don't think there's much doubt about that. And they've got several to choose from. But yeah, I mean, Baltimore's as good a choice as any, I would say, from their team. But yeah, we'll have a little think about that. We'll come up with someone. It was, of course, international break. It was, of course, the Nations League for the Lionesses, and wow, it was a little bit of a mixed week, but it didn't end too badly, did it? Now, of course, if you've seen the Lionesses over the last couple of years, I think we've all been slightly underwhelmed, if we're totally honest. I said the last international break, I didn't think we had any chance in the Euros of going particularly far. And, I was a little bit worried that maybe Serena had taken the team as far as she could. Winning the Euros, reaching a World Cup final is amazing. How do you maintain that? And a few injuries and stuff, and maybe young players coming through that aren't quite ready yet to make that step up. I was a little bit worried, I must be honest. Over the last couple of years, I've seen so many issues with this England team, and it's concerning me, really, because, I think we've got used to reaching finals and competing and stuff like that, and looking at the way we've been playing, my thoughts were like, are we really ready for this Euros? Can we compete? Can we go there and put a good show on? To win it back to back would be almost impossible, but let's give it a go is my kind of thoughts. I was a bit worried that we couldn't. I think the Portugal game last midweek, kind of a lot of that game, especially the second half, got me really worried actually. But let's see what Andreas made of the game against Portugal first.
Hello everybody. Yeah, the Nations League has started. Important tournament over the next months, because it gives us the chance or the option to test things for the Euros. And we started away at Portugal. The result was in the end a draw. Portugal won, England won. And to be absolutely honest, I was disappointed with the result. I think there are a few top teams in Europe, like Spain, France, Sweden, England, Germany. And then there is one level below, so you can call them tier 2 teams, like Denmark, Norway, Italy, Belgium, Portugal. Yeah, and we should be able to beat a team like Portugal comfortably. We didn't do this, so that's the reason why I say I'm disappointed with the result.
Yeah, and I think we all were disappointed with the result. We ran out of, seemed like we ran out of legs, ran out of ideas a little bit in that game. Yes, Lucy Bronze getting injured didn't help, I suppose, because she was playing well, but yeah, it wasn't really anything had changed for me from pretty much the last 2 years. And I must admit, at the end of that game, I'm thinking, is Serena still the one? Can Serena still produce results like she has done in the previous 2 tournaments? And I was having serious doubts about it. I've got to be honest. I didn't really enjoy that second half of the Portugal game. I just found it frustrating. And yeah, I was really concerned about the Euros in the summer, because there's not a lot of time, is there, between now and then to get it right. And I don't know, I just didn't feel as though the team, I thought it was lack of ideas, if I'm honest. That's what I thought the problem was. I thought it was lack of ideas. And I said, look, Portugal on a bad side, away from home, it's never going to be easy to go there and win. But in the position that we're in, another great goal from Leslie. I was just talking about her for Arsenal, a great goal for her for England as well. And again, she played well, but we didn't build on that. And that's happened before, hasn't it, in other games recently, where we've gone ahead, not built on it, and it's cost us. And it cost us in that game. They got a goal in the second half, and maybe they could have even won it, Portugal. So I came out of that game quite frustrated and quite disappointed. But wow, how things changed quite quickly, because the Spain game was something else, wasn't it? And I think, okay, we rode our luck a little bit at times in that game. And it's a shame maybe that the World Cup final 18 months ago didn't work the same way out, because and I think that game maybe showed that maybe Serena has got something in her still. Maybe she has still got something that she can, when it matters in the big games against the big teams, maybe she has still got something up her sleeve. Yes, Lauren James coming back was a bonus. Lauren Hemp's on her way back, that's a bonus. Lucy Bronze being fit again, and she had a great game, so that's a bonus as well. Obviously Leslie's performance, the part she played in that goal, sensational. And suddenly now, in such a short space of time, I'm gone from thinking we're going to the Euros just to make up the numbers and maybe straight through the group, but now having beaten Spain in the way that we played, we defended so well, and that was key. And of course, we still posed a threat at the other end as well, didn't we? We got the goal, and we had 1 or 2 other opportunities. We could have got a second goal, but I think to beat Spain in any game it deserves credit for everyone involved in that, because I just thought, we looked a lot more like our old selves, I suppose, in that game. The old Lionesses from the Euros and from bits in the World Cup, and that's what I like to see. And I was really impressed with that performance. I thought it was really good, and everybody who played in that game deserves credit, really, because it's never easy to play Spain. It never is easy, and to beat them is they haven't lost a game for ages. Was it 20-odd something games, wasn't it? So yeah, that was fantastic. And it suddenly made me feel, you know what, in the tournament, you get through your group. It's a one-off game, isn't it? The knockouts are a one-off game. We have got the players and we have got a manager who can get results in those one-off games. So maybe we might, I wouldn't say it'd be a surprise if we went a long way, but we might shock a few people who maybe wrote us off really a few weeks ago, even a few days ago, a week ago with the Portugal game. But the Spain game was great. And of course, Andreas enjoyed that one.
So the big match at Wembley, England versus Spain, 1-0. The reigning European champions has beaten the world champions. Yeah, it was a brilliant piece of football, I think, and all in all, great match from both teams. The attendance of 44,550 was just great for a Wednesday evening, a late game at Wembley, and what a performance from the Lionesses. I think the best performance for a very, very long time I've seen from the Lionesses, and everything I criticized after the Portugal game was done really, really better. It's like they listened to what I said. No.
Yeah, well, maybe they did, but yeah, I mean, it was a great performance. Absolutely, it was, and I don't think we can have too many complaints with that one. And one of Wiltshire says for them ticket prices and train fare from Lincoln to watch Arsenal are well worth. Absolutely, it's great value because it's not going to stay like that. The tickets will end up going up when we move to the Emirates full time permanently. I think the ticket prices are going to end up going up and up. But so let's enjoy it while they are still quite cheap. Ag says, surprised that England won. I think we're all a little bit surprised that England won that game, but it just goes to show, doesn't it? When you've got top players and when you've got players who know what it takes to win, they can pull off results and when it matters. And that gives me a hope for the Euros. I'm not saying we can win it, but it's given me more hope now that we can at least be competitive in that tournament now and go a little bit further than I anticipated. Joe says, I amazed myself. I was clapping Lauren James and I usually cannot stand her, but she was brilliant against Spain. No, she was. And, you know, sometimes it's difficult, isn't it? When you watch teams play for England, players play for England that you don't like week in, week out the WSL, especially the ones who play for Chelsea, sometimes it is difficult, isn't it, to accept them so much. But I try to put those feelings behind me when I'm watching Lionesses. But you know what? They're representing us. They're representing our country, and let's get behind them. And yeah, she was brilliant, Lauren James. Absolutely, she was. And a Lauren James that's on form would be a fantastic player. Will be a fantastic player for us in the summer. Absolutely, if she can get her attitude right, she will be an amazing player for us. And she's the sort of player that can win you a game. On one little bit of magic, one bit of skill, and in a knockout tournament like a Euros, that's so important, isn't it? So yeah, no, I think we need to get behind Lauren James when she's playing for England. When she's playing for Chelsea, we don't care. We don't like her. That's fine. But we need to get behind her when she's playing for England because she's brilliant. John says Lucy Bronze was so good. I think she's one of the greatest English female footballers ever. No, I agree. I think she probably is. I felt she was maybe past her best. I got to be honest. But yeah, she was fantastic in both those games, actually. So yeah, fair play to her. Again, you know, I'll hold my hands up when I'm wrong, and I was certainly wrong about Lucy Bronze because she was brilliant in them 2 games, absolutely. Terry says, "I'll forgive you this once to Joe, but don't ever say that name again." Now it's fine when she's playing for England. X says lots of great teams in Europe, no easy wins anyone. Absolutely not. No, there's not. Absolutely, any win's a good win. Well, he says Arsenal 2, Man United 1. Oh wow, the under-18s quarter final, great stuff. 27,000 watching on YouTube, 56 minutes gone. How many are in the stadium? Do we know? I'm guessing it won't be that many, but anyway. Collins says Greg Russo could be player of the what's the G mean? I don't know. Anyway, without getting a name. Oh, player of the game. Yeah, sorry. Without getting a name on the score sheet, taking Russo off against Spain could have been suicidal for Lionesses. No, you're right. Absolutely, she's playing so well at the minute. LG said, "Isn't Andreas German? He's German, but he's become an adopted Englishman now, and we've accepted him." Plus, I thought this was Arsenal women's show. Some of us are not English, so we don't care. Well, no, I understand that, and not everyone does care about Lionesses, but it's women's football, isn't it? And the Lionesses are, you know, a big part of the growth in women's football in this country in particular. So when they do play, we do like to have a little chat about them and stuff like that. And, you know, I understand not everyone will be interested in the Lionesses, and that's fair enough. Ag says bronze and Bright were great. Yeah, no, they were. Yeah. John says, who would you like to be number one goalkeeper for England? Me personally, Hannah Hampton, because I think Hannah Hampton's brilliant, and I think Mary Earps is a bit past it now, and I think Hannah Hampton's a future, and I think she's great. So yes, I would go with Hannah, but I think they'll still rotate. I think going into the tournament, I think Serena needs to make a decision. Who is her number one? Will she go with Mary Earps because of how well she's done in previous tournaments, or will she take not so much a risk on Hannah, but will she take that chance on Hannah and say, you know what, you're going to be my number one for this tournament? I hope so, because Hannah Hampton, I think, is a great goalkeeper. I really do. But it's nice to have that option, isn't it? Most teams lucky to have one decent goalkeeper. So to have two is quite fortunate, isn't it? So that's good. Joe says, don't worry, Terry, normality will return once the WSL starts up. Yeah. And LJ throws herself on the ground. But absolutely, yeah, of course. I said when she plays for Chelsea, exactly, she gets what she deserves. But when she plays for England, I think we need to support everybody else as well. But there you go. Terry says, LG is turning into Jamie Carragher. Well, I mean, that's a bit harsh. Anyway, there you go. Greg says, it was a good win, but we were poor. We only won because Spain didn't have their shooting. But well, no, I mean, slightly, but sometimes in games you have to. I thought we defended well, actually, as well. I think you've got to give credit to our defensive performance. And in those sort of games, it's because Spain are a good team, a better team than us, we're going to suffer in the game, aren't we? They're going to have the ball a lot more than we are. And they're going to have chances and stuff like that. So we've got to be clinical in the chances that we had, which we were. And we've got to defend well, which we did. And that's how you win those sort of games, isn't it? Yeah, Spain were unfortunate. And if that had been us losing that game 1-0 playing like Spain did, we'd have been quite annoyed. But that's football, isn't it? And at least it shows that we can beat a team like Spain. We can't beat a team like Spain. And that's going to be important, isn't it? They're the sort of things that you can take when you're going into a tournament. You have to take those positives, don't you? Because you know it's going to be tough. And we're going to face some good teams, not just Spain. We might not have to face Spain in the Euros, but we're going to face some great teams, aren't we? If we're going to go far, we're going to have to play and beat some good teams. So you get confidence from those type of results and those type of performances because we dug in, and I like that. You know, we dug in, we worked hard, and I thought we deserved to win. Yeah, you could say Spain had more chances than us, all this, and they did. But I thought for how we set ourselves up, how we set about the task, I thought we deserved to win. We took our chance and we held on, and that was great. LG says there, I'm not in any way dismissing the Lionesses. All I'm saying is that I'm only interested in Arsenal since this is supposed to be the Arsenal show. I'm not English, so I don't get. No, absolutely no. I understand that, and I totally take that on board. Terry says there's more chance LJ Havertz will lose you the game by getting some. Well, there is a chance of that. I wouldn't say more chance, but there's definitely a chance. Greg says we're still light up front if Russo gets injured. Yeah, I agree with that as well. LG says Jamie Carragher was disrespectful about our continental AFCON. He was, yeah. I've never disrespected the Lionesses or their achievements. All I'm saying is that I don't care about it. And that's fair enough. No, you're right. And I mean, what Jamie Carragher said was ridiculous, quite honestly. I'm surprised he's still in the job, to be honest. Some of the things that he's done and said over the years, I'm surprised he's still in the job, the guy. But anyway, it is what it is. And yeah, wow, that's all I can say about that. Wow. So yeah, I mean, it was in the end, it was a decent international break, wasn't it? It wasn't, it's not a tournament. Well, not a proper tournament. Nations League is a sort of a tournament, but we've shown that we can get a result against good teams, and let's hope we can do the same in the summer if we have to. Greg says, I watched the women's under 23s. We've got no one good enough to step up except Katie Reid. Now, that is my worry. I do feel as though that's the problem, and I think Serena's had that problem. And, you know, this might well be the last tournament for this group of players because look at the age of some of them, you know, and there isn't those players coming through and we haven't been able to develop them quickly enough. And I think we might, after this Euros, we might suffer a bit in the next couple of tournaments for that reason. But anyway, let's see what happens. Let's enjoy the Euros first, because you never know. We might surprise ourselves and do better with it. Aggie says, Jamie Carragher, you might not know him. He's a former footballer who played in the Premier League for Liverpool. And he's now a pundit on Sky Sports in England. And he does talk a lot of nonsense, but anyway, you don't need to worry about him because you'll probably never see him in Sweden, which will probably be just as well. Terry says, are the rumours true? We're buying Keating from City as we need an England goalkeeper. So I've not heard that, actually. I've not heard about that. I mean, I wouldn't really want her, though, because she's not very good, is she? She's certainly not better than Daphne, is she? So, no, we don't want her. Anyway, after the international break, of course, we have got the WSL is back. It is what we have been looking forward to. Absolutely looking forward to the WSL coming back. It seems to have been away for ages. And we are back with what is going to be a tricky game, shall we say. I wouldn't say it's a tough game. It's going to be a tricky game, isn't it? Another London derby as well. So West Ham, of course, visit Meadow Park on Sunday. Andreas will be there, of course, which is why he's not here tonight. He is flying as we speak. He is over in the sky there. He's gone. He's coming over, of course, for the West Ham game at Meadow Park. And obviously, it's great to have the WSL back. And it's a game traditionally at home against West Ham. We do well. We've struggled a bit away from home there a couple of times in recent years. But at home, we generally do well. And I'm sure we would expect us to get the victory. Seems to be after international break, a lot of our players fly all over the world. We've had the Australians, we've got the Americans. They've been in the She Believes Cup. So some of our players have had some journeys this last week or so, and it does take it out of all that flying. It does, and sometimes we've struggled to find our best form, haven't we, straight after the national break? And in a way, it's better to have played a team like West Ham, maybe. Although on the other side of that, you've got West Ham don't have too many players away in the international break. So maybe they're going to be slightly fresher than we are. But ultimately, you'd rather play West Ham at home in the first game after the international break than one of the top teams, let's be honest. And it's a great opportunity for us to get our rhythm back ahead of some really important games coming up over in March, because it's a big month, isn't it, with the Champions League, the FA Cup, and of course these WSL games as well. It's a big month, lots of big games, and of course it starts, I say, on Sunday against West Ham. So let's get some thoughts from Andreas, of course, on this great game coming up against West Ham.
We will be back in WSL action at the weekend, back at Meadow Park and at home against West Ham United. Let's look at this game. Yeah, West Ham, they grabbed so far 14 points out of 14 games. They have beaten the likes of Crystal Palace, Leicester City, Everton and Spurs. So they won what they could expect, but they lost against the big teams. And we are one of the big teams. But as I always say, don't underestimate them. We had our problems with West Ham in recent years. I remember 0-0 and I think a 1-1, 2 draws, but they were away at West Ham. So this time we're playing at home, and we are very strong at Meadow Park with all the crowd behind us. So I expect us to win the game. I'm recording this on Sunday, so I have no idea about the possible lineup, and I pray that all our players return healthy and without injury from the international break.
Yeah, and from what we're hearing today in the press conference, it seems like they have. Well, they've certainly come back without injury. I say some are going to be maybe feeling the effects of the flying and stuff like that. It was a 2-1 defeat, actually, Andreas. It wasn't a 1-1 draw. We lost, didn't we, away last season to West Ham, if you remember. We actually took the lead, and then we ended up losing that game. One of a couple of defeats that were really crucial in the end, wasn't they, to the season? So, but yeah, they were away from home. Obviously, at Meadow Park in particular, we don't lose very often. And against West Ham in particular, we don't lose very often at home either, do we? So I'm expecting us to win the game, obviously. But yeah, I think from the team kind of perspective, I don't expect there to be lots of changes from the Spurs game. I think it does depend on, how ready to play people like Emily Fox are, Kyra, obviously Steph as well. So it'd be interesting to see if those three make the starting lineup or not. But we've got cover, haven't we? I suppose, for those positions. Katie Reid can play right back. She's done a decent job there when she's played there previously, so I would have no problem with her coming in. In midfield, Kim might well be ready to start, and Leah Volti as well. So, we've got players in those positions, haven't we? And of course, I'm going to say left back, we've got Jenna. She was flying over as well. So, but obviously, Katie McCabe can play there. Lotta's out, centre back, but obviously Cody could play there if Steph can't. So, we've got options in those positions where they play. So I'm not concerned too much about that necessarily. And obviously in the front line, we've got so many options, haven't we? Chloe Kelly, of course, will be in contention. Beth apparently is fit again, so she's going to be in contention. Of course, the good news is we've seen her training and we've heard the news. Vicky Palova is ready to come back into the squad. She's not going to start the game. Let's not get carried away. She will not start the game. She's not ready to start yet. It's an ACL injury she's back from, but she's going to probably be on the bench, I would imagine. And she may well come on 5-10 minutes at the end if the game allows it to. That'd be great, wouldn't it, to see her back? And how we've missed her in some games this season. What a fantastic news that is for us to get Vicky Palova back from her injury. Let's be patient with her, but wouldn't that be exciting to see her on the pitch, even if it's just for 5 minutes at the end, to see her back playing again after all this time? So, yeah, that's good news. But, yeah, I would the team lineup's going to be quite similar, I think, to the Spurs game, just with those doubts about the players that's flown around the world, and whether or not they're ready to start the game or not. So we'll see. But I'm not concerned too much about that. I think we've got plenty of depth. Not really worried. West Ham, a bit of a hit and miss team. As Andrea said, they've beaten the teams they would have expected to beat. They've lost to the teams you would expect them to lose to. And I think most people would expect them to lose to us on Sunday. We will get your score prediction in for that game as well, because Andreas has to give his score prediction as well very shortly. I'm sure he will. Ag's gone at 3-1. Yeah, that's fair enough. Joe says, can't stand listening to his Scouse accent. Well, no, it's more the rubbish he comes out with as much as his accent. Yeah, his accent's not great. Nothing against the Scouse accent in general. It's not the easiest on the ear, is it? But anyway... Lethal Chicken says, I fully expect West Ham to be a comfortable win on Sunday, given our current form, especially. No, I would imagine so. But I just think the international break thing, you lose a bit of momentum, don't you? And maybe it wouldn't be as... If we played West Ham directly after the Spurs game, I would have expected us to have beat West Ham just as comfortably. But when you lose a bit of that momentum and players flying around all over the world, I don't know. I'm not convinced it'll be quite as comfortable a win as it might have been. But yeah, I still fully expect that we should win in the end. Greg says, if we don't win 5-0 against Sacramento, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Terry says, this should be like playing Spurs again. I'm wanting more than 5 goals against West Ham. Well, no, it's going to be, it should be a similar type of victory, yeah. Ag says, Palova, what country? Palova is, she's Dutch, isn't she? So, yeah, Vicky Palova, brilliant. Greg says Dutch, indeed she is. Joe's gone. 2-1 to West Ham? No, you can't be serious. You think West Ham are going to win 2-1? No, I can't believe you're actually saying that. You was cheering Lauren James a minute ago, and now you're saying West Ham are going to win. What's going on? What, have you been on the wine or something? Terry says, bloody hell, Greg, you're going to get me in trouble saying things like that, but I do agree 100%. No, Med Rene, absolutely not. Emma says, well, my friend, good to see. He says, Ian Rich in chat room, my prediction's 3-0. I mean, yeah, 3-0 is a bit of a more, I would say, a sensible prediction. So Joe says, only that score because of changes, if any, mate. No, but even if we have to make changes, we're going to be miles too strong for West Ham. Come on. Absolutely. John says, what's happened to Kafaji? I told people she's a bit overrated and she's not better than Amana. Well, no, to be honest with you, I don't know if she's overrated. I think that she struggled a little bit to adapt to the pace of the WSL. And I don't know, she struggled a little bit to settle. I think she's got, you can see there's a player in there. She's just not ready yet. And, you know, she needs to come on, get some minutes here and there, build herself up. And maybe next season we might see a bit more from her. We might see the more the true Rosa Kafaji. But no, she hasn't hit the ground at all, has she, for us yet? And will she ever? I don't know. But I want to give her a bit more time. You know, it's tough, isn't it, just to suddenly come in and hit the ground running straight away. LG says, Frida will score as she usually does. Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. She always wants to shoot, even if it's not the right decision, but at least she has that inner Erdegaard needs shooting lessons from. Well, no, you're right. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Frida is, and I know there's someone in the chat who quite often criticises Frida every single game. And I, you know, I'm not saying she's the greatest player in the world, because she's not, but I think she's very effective. I think she does a good job. She works hard, and as you rightly say, LG, she's prepared to take a shot from sometimes some strange angle, but sometimes they go in, and they have gone in, and I kind of like that. And I like to see players shoot from outside the box sometimes. You know, we're a very passing team, a bit like the men. We're a very passing team, but we saw Emily Fox do it against Tottenham, have a shot, because they can go in. I mean, Katie McCabe's not frightened to shoot, and yeah, you're right, Frida will shoot. She will take a shot on, and I like that. And she does score a lot of goals. She's got, what, 10, 11 this season, you know, from midfield. That's a decent number, and she generally scores a lot of goals. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think she probably will score. I think she's got a couple against West Ham, hasn't she, at Meadow Park? I think I remember a really good goal against West Ham a couple of years ago that she scored. So, was that last season? Agba Jones has gone 2-1 win for the Arsenal. Well, that will do. That will do. We'll take a 2-1 win. We're not bothered. 3 points is what matters. Greg says, let's be honest, that we should get at least 10 with our attacking faults. Well, I don't know. LG says, I've turned. Kafaji tries too hard. No, I think she does try too hard. She wants to do too much. I agree. And is it because she wants to prove herself? Is it just a natural game? She wants to get on the ball and do stuff. I think that's a part of it as well. And she's maybe struggling to fit into what we need, the way that we play. We're not a dribbling team, really, are we? We're not that sort of team. We're more of a passing team, and she maybe needs to adapt to that. But anyway, Ag says, I love Frida. No, I think we all will. Well, I say most of us love Frida. As I say, there's one person in the show sometimes that doesn't particularly like Frida, but you know. Greg says, Ag will be happy when Stina and Russo both get a hat-trick. Well, I think we'll all be happy if that happens, won't we? Pretty much. We'll see. But anyway, Andreas has got some more thoughts about the West Ham game as well, because he's going to be there, so he's entitled to give his opinion.
So I think we should beat West Ham. I just checked the squad from West Ham, just to give a few names. I think the goalkeeper, Kinga Jemik from Poland, she had a good game in the first half of the season against us. And other names you might know, Shelina Sadorski in defense, or from Austria, Verena Henshaw. Then Dagny Brynjarsdottir in midfield, Katharina Gorry, the Australian midfielder. And in the attacking line, there's the Japanese Riko Ueki. I think she was sometimes a goal threat for us in the first game. And then they have French international Viviane Asseyer. We know her. She was 2 years at Bayern Munich. And Shakira Martinez from Eintracht Frankfurt. She came during the winter break. Yes, they have a few good players. And don't underestimate them. We are in a position where we can't throw away any points. We must win. And the goal difference from the other teams, United and City, show that we should win our games comfortably. We should do something for the goal difference, what we did against Spurs. So hopefully we'll do against West Ham.
Andreas' score prediction will be coming shortly, so yes, but no, absolutely right. I mean, I don't really like to pay too much attention to goal difference, just really for the fact that most of the time it's points that matter. Not very much is decided on goal difference. If you look historically, how many big things have been decided on goal difference? Not many. Obviously, we've been involved in one particular one, haven't we? But it's normally points that matter, isn't it? And winning the games is the most important thing. If you're in a position in the game where you can go on and win big and pull some goal difference back, I don't think goal difference is going to be the deciding factor for us this season in whether we get top 3 or not. I think it's going to be down to how many games we win and how many points we get, personally. But, you know, so the first and foremost, it's about winning the game. If you can then, you know, once you've got the game won, maybe with a couple of goals up, then you can maybe think about, let's try and boost the goal difference. But I don't think you should ever go into a game and talk about, well, let's boost their goal difference in this game. Not until you've got the game won. You know, the most important thing is winning the game first and foremost, because the 3 points is what matters. And then anything on top of that's a bonus, isn't it? So, but yeah, it is a game where you look at on paper. We can look at it as fans and say, well, you know what? Look, it's West Ham at home. We should win, and we should win fairly comfortably. But the most important thing is winning. I would take a 2-1. Someone said 2-1. I would take the 2-1. Absolutely, I would. Not a problem at all. Agba says, yes, Kafaji needs time to settle. Just look at how Kyra's doing this season compared to yeah, exactly. And, you look at Vicky Pulova, when she first joined, she didn't have the impact that she had last season. So it can take time. And I'm not prepared to just throw the towel in on Kafaji at all, because I can see she's got talent. But can she fit in with our system, the way we want to play? And can she become the player that we all kind of thought she was going to become? Let's wait and see. It's very early days. And I'll say I'm not. She hasn't set the world on fire yet. She hasn't looked that great, if we're honest. But I'm prepared to give her the time. So let's see how she develops. I think next season is going to be the crucial one. Whatever she does between now and the end of the season, I think we can just put that down to settling in. Next season, there's no real excuses. She's either going to have to become the player that she needs to be, or she's going to prove to be not good enough, and then she get moved on. But that's the life of a footballer. Unfortunately, it's at the top level, it's a cutthroat business, isn't it? You either cut the mustard or you don't, and you're out, and that's it. So next season she's got. I'm prepared to let this season go, because I think it's difficult for anyone coming in, and like you say about Kyra, exactly that. So. But yeah, let's see. Ag says, I'm offside today is Trump and Vance. Terry says, Andreas is 2-1. So, okay, so this is a good little game we can play, can't we? What do we think Andreas' score prediction is going to be? Because he's going to give us a score prediction in a minute. What do we think his score prediction is going to be? Terry thinks he's going to say 2-1. He's just mentioned there about the Spurs game and thinking it might be a similar. So maybe he's going to go higher than 2-1. Maybe he's going to go 5-0, 6-0. Who knows? He might be feeling optimistic. We'll have to see, won't we? Terry says, also, don't rush Vicky back. No, absolutely not. I don't think we will. I think it's important that we, that as fans as well, understand that it's going to take her time. Look how long it's took Beth. She still hasn't really got back to her best form yet. Leah Williams has had some difficulties coming back from her ACL injury. Viv, we've seen the issues that she's had coming back. So let's not don't put too much expectation on Vicky. She needs time. And again, a bit like we just said about Kafaji, I think this season we can basically write off of Vicky Pulova. I don't think we're going to see the best Vicky Pulova in the rest of this season. Hopefully she can start playing, get some minutes and start working her way back. Again, I think for next season, we are going to see, hopefully, the real Vicky next season. So let's not, let's see her on the pitch, but let's hold fire a little bit with her. Let's not get too excited, because I don't expect she's going to be anywhere near the level she was for a while. But let's get her to play. LG says, after City lost to us 2-1 last season with Steena's brace, Chelsea knew they had to up their goal difference against Bristol and won 8-0. The title was decided on goal difference. Yeah, I say it's not often, though, is it? When you look at historically, it's usually decided on points, isn't it? It so happened that Chelsea were fortunate that they got the Bristol City to play, I suppose, the worst team in the league last season. But it's not often, is it, that it is decided on goal difference? It's usually points. And I say, if like in that particular instance, Chelsea knew they needed to win big, then it's different, isn't it? But most games in the season, your first, you've got like an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal. Your A goal's got to be to win the game. Whether it's a scrappy 1-0, doesn't matter. Your second goal's got to be a good performance, because good performances breed confidence and takes it into the next game. And of course, your third goal is winning big, isn't it? Getting your goal difference up. But that's not the priority. You see how the game goes, but get it won, try and play well, and then hopefully you can get a big win. That's the way to look at it. That's the way I look at it. Greg thinks Andreas is going to go 2-0. A little bit more optimistic from Greg. Thinks he's going to be. Let's see. LG says here something that I definitely agree with. Arteta out, Kroenke out, make Arsenal great again. Yeah, absolutely. And the make Arsenal great again is not going to happen while we've got those first two out of the club. Absolutely not. So yeah, I agree. Get them out. Absolutely get them out. Ag says, where is Lena Hurtig? Well, that's a very good question. It's almost become a game, isn't it? Like, where's Wally? Where's Lena Hurtig? Because we never see her, do we? I don't know if she's injured still. I don't know if she's still got these personal issues. Today in a press conference, Rene said everybody is fit and available apart from Lotta, which we knew about anyway. everybody, does that mean Lena Hurtig as well? Does that mean everybody? Because if it means everybody, then it should mean Lena Hurtig's fit and available. Will she make it into the squad? If everybody's fit and available, you'd say probably not, because I think there's players who should be in the squad ahead of her. When you've only got 9 players on the bench that you can have, I would put up someone else there instead. But if she's available, she's available. Let's see. Terry says, good shout, Greg, but that's a massive win in Andrea. Well, it is a big win, yeah. Greg says he's back in training. Yeah, I think everybody's fit apart from Lotta. So Greg's got a massive win. 3-1 is a massive win, yeah. Terry says, LG, I'll take it all back about Jamie. Good stuff. Ag says, yes, that's MAGA I support indeed. We all do. And Ryan says MAGA and what does MAGA mean? I'm sure that's probably something good. Ag says Lena was in the training, but yeah, no, I think everybody's fit, and let's hope that if we've got a fully fit squad, we're going to be difficult for anybody to beat us. But I think the flying and stuff, can we have everybody firing on all cylinders on Sunday? Probably not, but we probably won't have to be, will we, to win that game? Let's be honest. Terry says, I'm sure I saw her working in Sainsbury's with Elvis collecting trolleys. Yes, she might have been, yeah. Was in the chip shop. LG says, it's tight between us and the 2 Manchester clubs for those Champions League spots. What's your prediction for 2nd, 3rd and 4th places? Obviously, we're going to come 2nd, aren't we? Of course. I mean, the way it's going at the minute, I think we'll be 2nd, Man U 3rd and Man City 4th. But then I think Man City will probably end up coming good and getting that 3rd place, and Man U will probably miss out again. Would probably be if I had to predict it now, I would say, yeah, I'll go Arsenal 2nd, Man City 3rd, Man United 4th. That's how I can see it playing out right now. But who knows? Man United are 2nd at the minute, aren't they? So we'll have to see, won't we, what's going to happen there. So, okay, then let's have a listen to it. Let's get Andreas's prediction on the game. Has anybody got it right? Has he gone big? Or will it be a conservative Andreas that we've become used to? Let's find out, shall we?
Will there be rotation? Maybe because of, as I said, the travel from US. Maybe the Australians and US players will not play for 90 minutes. Hopefully all girls will come without injuries. Hopefully we'll have Lotta and Beth back in the squad, and then we should be optimistic. And now you're asking for my prediction. Thinking about it, I was going for 3-0, but then I remember this international break and that we always had problems after the first match after international break, and West Ham doesn't have a lot of players who were away for the national team, so it might be a problem. I think they will play a low block, and this season we showed that we have a plan against low blocks. We did it against Spurs, for example, and we have, if things doesn't work, we have a plan B. René normally makes early substitution and changes something in the tactics. So I'm optimistic, but it won't be too easy. I think it will be a 2-0. I was going 2-0 for the LCL Cup game and was right. Then I was going 2-0 for the Spurs game, and fortunately I was not right. So let's see. My prediction is Arsenal 2, West Ham 0. 3 points for us. That would be important. Come on, you Gunners.
2-0. So Greg got it right. Well done to Greg. He said 2-0, didn't he? And he was right. So yeah, it was. Well, he wasn't going to go. He was almost optimistic, wasn't he, Andreas? He was almost going to go 3-0. Anyway, let's see. LG says Man United have Chelsea, City, and Arsenal in their last 3 games. Well, yeah, they do, but I mean, we've still got to play Man United as well, haven't we? So it's that's the last game of the season. That could be a big one. But yeah, I think regardless of that, I still think Man City will probably sneak in third. We'll be second. Roy says Arsenal 2, Man United 2. Oh, that cup game. Wow, that sounds like it's an exciting game anyway, doesn't it? Ag says Greg and Terry are both great lads. So yeah, sometimes exactly. Yeah. Greg says Aggies love Stina indeed. LG says guys, don't forget West Ham beat us last weekend at home with their men's team. So I wouldn't be that confident. Well, but don't forget the men's team have got one, no strikers, and two, a crap manager. So we can't really read too much into that result, can we? And we certainly don't expect that to be replicated in the women's game this weekend, do we? Absolutely not. Absolutely, we don't. Of course, anything can happen in football. I mean, we did lose away at West Ham last season, I said before. So, you know, I never take any team for granted. I never like to take any team for granted because I don't think that you can. I think that in any one game, anything's possible in sport and in football. And that's one of the reasons why we love it, because, you know, we play Chelsea, and although they're a better team than us, there's always a chance that we can beat them. And they're the moments that, that's what you live for, don't you? In the Champions League, that, you know, are we the best team left in it? No, we're probably not. But there's a chance we can win it, because these things can happen. And West Ham, on their day, could beat us on Sunday. They could. Things go their way. We miss a few chances. We get a player sent off. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? And these things can happen in football. And you just never know, do you? But no, obviously we should win, shouldn't we? Let's be honest. I think it'll be a big. It'd be one of the shocks of the season, wouldn't it, if West Ham was to win 1-0 at like the men did last week. If they had to win 1-0 at Meadow Park on Sunday, it would be one of the shocks, wouldn't it? Terry says, congratulations to Greg. Greg got Andreas' score prediction right. He did say Andreas say 2-0. He has said 2-0, which he did, of course, get right in the London City Lionesses game. So, you know, we have to give him credit for that, because most people were predicting that to be a big win, and it was only 2-0. You get through in a cup, you're not bothered. I actually think that it could be a bit of a slow burner, this game, like the international breaks before, where we've maybe took a little bit of time to get going. I think we will win comfortably in the end. I'm going to go 4-0, actually. I think in the end we will win 4-0. I think our squad depth and our attacking players in the end will have too much. You know, we'll probably make some substitutions, maybe 65 minutes. Stina may well come on if she doesn't start. And then, you know, she's like to get a goal towards the end. So I think we'll win 4-0. And that's that'll be great. But I would take, right now, if you were to offer me a 1-0 win now, I would take it, because it's 3 points. So there you go. There you go. Terry says, Richard's so nice. I bet he eats Hovis. West Ham are rubbish, at least 6. Well, now you see, West Ham might well be rubbish, but football doesn't always work like that. And I'd love to see us win 6-0 or 8-0. Of course, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? But let's win the game first and then see where we are. Make sure that we win the game. That's the most important thing, isn't it? You know, let's play well. Let's do what we're good at doing. Let's get our attacking players involved and create chances, and I'm sure we'll score quite a few goals. And so I'm going 4-0, and I think Stina will score one from the bench. Maybe Leslie will get a couple as well. We shall see. Greg says, love all things Swedish except that boring music. But no, ABBA was all right, wasn't they? They were quite good, actually. I'll tell you something that keeps popping up on my, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because obviously I know what the algorithms are like and stuff like that, because obviously we talk about Sweden a lot and music and stuff. I'm getting Ace of Base popping up quite a lot, actually. On my, when I look at YouTube, I get Ace of Base videos come up quite a lot as a suggestion, which is fine, because I don't mind Ace of Base, I've got to be honest. And they kind of remind me a little bit of ABBA, don't they? Their kind of music's quite similar, I think, in some ways. More of a modern version of what ABBA's music might have sounded like if they carried on in the 90s and stuff. But yeah, Ace of Base, right? I don't think Ace of Base get enough credit, actually. For I thought they were quite decent. They made some good little pop tunes. And Roxette as well. I don't think, well, Roxette's Swedish. They were from Scandinavia, weren't they, Roxette? They were good as well, actually. They were quite underrated as a band. What were they Swedish, Roxette? I can't remember now. But anyway, I like Roxette as well. So, but Ace of Base are very decent, I think. Ace of Base, I saw the song was a good one. Yeah, of course, All That She Wants. They made loads of good songs, actually, Ace of Base. So, no, they did. They're underrated, I would say they are. Definitely. Greg's got a 7-0. Wow, well, I mean, 7-0 would be great, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Terry says, All That She Wants is Another Baby. Exactly. Roxette are Swedish. I had a feeling they were Swedish. I think, isn't the singer dead now from Roxette? I'm sure she is, which is a shame, because she was great. And Roxette were decent, actually. It must have been Love, of course, probably the most famous one that they did from Pretty Woman, the film, wasn't it? But no, Roxette were good as well. So I think, you know, Sweden, it's not just ABBA music from Sweden. They've had a few, haven't they? And obviously AHA were from Norway, so another Scandinavian kind of group as well. Ag says, per Guesty out on Tour Roxette. Yeah, no, so yeah, because I say the original singer, she died, didn't she, unfortunately, but they were good Roxette. I liked a lot of their songs. Lena, was that her name? Was it Lena Phillipson? Yeah, I wasn't ever sure, but yeah, they were good. I liked Roxette, but yeah. So Sweden isn't just about IKEA and ABBA, is it? Or Volvo. It's there's a little bit more to Sweden, or Stina. There's a little bit more to Sweden than anyway, isn't it? But yeah, no, Ace of Base, Ace of Base were decent as well. But yeah, so obviously we're going to beat West Ham, aren't we? We are going to beat West Ham. There's no doubt about that, and I'm sure we will obviously enjoy that game. And if you do see Andreas at Meadow Park, he will be there. He might well pop in the pub beforehand. Great Companion or something, isn't it? The one in Boreham Wood. He usually pops in there. So if you do see Andreas there or in the ground or anywhere, do say hello to him. He does love to meet you all. And although he's about 8 foot tall, he is very friendly. He's a big friendly giant, isn't he? And he will be doing a vlog of the game as well, which will appear on the channel at some point, probably Sunday evening, or latest on Monday, when I get around to getting that sorted. So yeah, look out for that, because that's going to be good. Of course it's going to be good. They're always good, aren't they? Let's be honest. And obviously Ganosaurus usually makes a guest appearance now. He's almost become he's almost like the co-host, isn't he, of the vlogs now. He's appears so often. So look out for that, because that is going to be good. Now we've got quite a big week coming up. Of course, Sunday I'll be here. It's a late kickoff on Sunday, isn't it, for the WSL? Is it the 5:30 kickoff, which is unusual, isn't it, for the WSL on a Sunday? But we'll take it, because it's a good time for me. So we'll be here for that one, for the West Ham game. So join us for that, because that is going to be fantastic. And of course, Tuesday, the men are in the Champions League action, the last 16 tie against PSV Eindhoven. We've got no strikers. We can't score a goal. We've got to somehow find a way to win over 2 legs against PSV. So join us for that one on Tuesday. That kicks off at 8 o'clock as well. And of course, next weekend we've got a bit of a problem, haven't we? Next Sunday, because we've got the women playing. I think it's at 2 o'clock. In the FA Cup, isn't it, against Liverpool? And then, of course, we've got the men playing against Man United at R4. So I don't know if I'll do both of them games, but we'll certainly watch the women's game. Of course we will, because it's going to be good, isn't it? Terry says, we all love Andreas. Of course, absolutely, we all love Andreas. Ag says, Ace of Base from Gothenburg. Oh, no, from Gothenburg. There you go, you see. Lots of good things from Gothenburg. So there you go. But yeah, so we'll be here on Sunday, of course, for the West Ham game. That is going to be quite special, isn't it? Now, just before we go, I do want to talk about the news today about the sort of new construction, if you like, of the WSL and women's football in this country, professional football. And there was a bit of talk, wasn't there, about no relegation from the WSL, the Championship. Now, I kind of read that as being more temporary, just so that they can increase the number of teams. So say, for example, if they don't have any relegation for 2 seasons and they promote 2 teams, then we're going to go from 12 to 14 teams, aren't we? And then we could have 2 relegate, then we could go to 2 up and 2 down after that. And I'm hoping that that's what they mean, because that would make sense to me. Back in the day, years ago, when they were expanding the men's game, that's what they did. They had no relegations. They promoted teams in to get the numbers up. And I don't mind that. If they're going to do that for 2 seasons to get 2 more teams in the WSL and the Championship, as long as they bring promotion and relegation back after that, I've got no problem with that. I think that's great. My only issue would be is if they made it like the American system, where it's not automatic relegation and promotion, and I don't like that, and I don't think that would sit well with English football at all, because we've always had promotion and relegation, haven't we? It's what it's about, it's what football is about. Okay, we don't need to worry about relegation being Arsenal, but the fact that relegation's there and promotion is there is important, isn't it? I think it's really important for the game, and I wouldn't want to see that go. I don't think you can have a closed shop. I remember when the Premier League first started in the men's game, there was a lot of talk of that, wasn't there, about not automatically promoting teams and stuff like that, and that soon got dismissed because it won't work. You can't do that. You want to grow. Women's football needs to grow, and I think we need a bigger WSL. But football's got to be the standard's got to be good enough. It's no good just suddenly promoting 4 teams from the Championship in the WSL, because they'll struggle. They're not ready. there isn't 4 teams in the Championship that could come into the WSL and compete. There might be one, the London City Lionesses, as we've spoken about, we played them. They could probably compete next season. They've got a bit of money. But other than that, the other teams that might come up are going to struggle and probably go back down. And that's no good. And I think maybe having a 2-year break from promotion and relegation might actually help if it means that we can get a bit more investment into the Championship teams and more of them can become full-time professional. They can be ready. And then when we get back to promotion again, the teams that do come up are more likely to be able to compete in the WSL. And I think that's what we need to happen. And I would take 2 seasons of no relegation if that was going to be the outcome of it. I wouldn't want to see it become a permanent thing. Absolutely not. I think that's wrong on all levels. In junior football, even at junior football levels, you have promotion and you have relegation. And it's so important. It's so important to have that in the game. 2 years, I'm fine with. If that's what it's 1 year, 2 years, I'm absolutely fine with it. If we get to the long-term goal of having a bigger, more competitive WSL and maybe a bigger, more competitive Championship as well, great. But if they're going to stop it completely, indefinitely, no, I would not support that at all. I would not support that at all. Definitely not. Joe says yes, temporarily. Yeah, I think temporary is fine, and I think that would make sense in some ways because we've all been talking, haven't we? We've mentioned it on the show loads of times. We want to get more teams in the WSL. I don't think 12 teams is enough. It needs to be a minimum of 14. I would even maybe look at 16. But as long as we can get 16 teams that are full-time professional, have got resources and can compete at that level, that's fine. We're not at that stage yet. And it might take a few years to get there, but we need to build it gradually. But it's all about the long term, isn't it? Level Jenkins says the article definitely did say initially. I think a lot of people haven't read the article correctly. Yeah, I think people have jumped to the conclusion of, there's going to be no promotion relegation ever. No, it doesn't really say that. And I didn't really look at it like that. I looked on it more as a temporary thing while they adjust the leagues and get more teams in and make it more competitive. And I'm 100% behind that. 100%. I think that's great. It's what we need. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that maybe people have read the article. I think people have jumped to conclusions due to some sensationalist headlines that's been out there. No relegation, no promotion. It's like, no, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is to enable the game to get to where it needs to be, we might have to do that. And the clubs are involved. No club, very few clubs, I think, would vote for no promotion relegation from the WSL. I don't think anybody would vote for that. The clubs wouldn't vote for it, so they would never get it through. At the moment, I think there's proposals because they want to figure out a way to grow the game. And we do need a bigger WSL. Absolutely, we do. We need more teams in the WSL, but we need it to be more competitive. So, yeah. Let's not jump to these conclusions. Let's see. But in principle, if that's the aim, I'm behind it. If it is going to be more like the American system, then I'm not behind it. There's too much Americanisms in our game now already as it is. Joe says we should make it more interesting. It will make the mid-table teams fight more for survival. Exactly, yeah. And it makes it more interesting anyway, doesn't it? If you've got a bigger league, it makes everything a bit more interesting because in the WSL now, because of the number of games that there is, you lose 2 games early on, you're probably not going to win the league. It's already, and it's gone like it did for us. We knew back in October we couldn't win the league, and that's not really good for the league, is it? In the Premier League, you can lose a couple of games early on, and you're not completely out of it because there's so many games left, and you could go on a run and win 20 games in a row, as Man City have done plenty of times, and it's not over, and it keeps it alive. And I want to see that what's always annoyed me about the WSL is the fact that it is so small that 1 or 2 defeats and you're out of it already, of winning the league, seems crazy. Yes, you've got the Champions League spaces, which makes that exciting, but it needs to be that all the way through the league. You've got too many teams that are comfortable in the WSL. They're going to come 6th or 7th every year. They haven't got to worry about relegation. They're never going to get into the top 4. What is they really got to play for? We need to make it more interesting for everybody. We've always got something to play for because we're going hopefully for the league title, or we're going for the top 3, and we don't need to worry about that ourselves. But when you look at it, there's plenty of teams that have got nothing to play for at all, apart from the odd cup game here and there. So that needs to be sorted out. There needs to be, in the Premier League, you've got the money. One position in the league can mean a lot of money to the club. And I don't want to see that necessarily be the reason in the WSL, but it needs to become more competitive. There needs to be more for everybody to play for, whether it's fighting relegation, or whether it's battling for Champions League places, whatever it is, more teams need to have more to play for, more deeper into the season because it makes it more interesting. And also it means that, it means the league's more competitive, because if you're playing a team in mid-table who've got nothing to fight for in the last 3 or 4 games of the season, they don't really care. And you're going to see that's when you do get some strange results, because you've got one team that's fighting for something and the one team that isn't. The team that's fighting for something is going to win that game. And that's not good for the game in general, is it? You don't want to see games like that. You want to see games where everybody's got something to fight for. And if it happens to be money, it happens to be money, which is better than nothing, I suppose. But I don't want to see it go down that route necessarily. But let's see what the final decisions are before we get too carried away about all this no relegation and no promotion. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think English football would accept that. I don't think English teams would accept it. I don't think English fans would accept it, and I don't think people running it would accept it either. So let's assume that's going to be the way. I'm hoping so. Terry says, my problem with increasing the WSL is we need less friendlies because of injuries. It's bad enough now. Well, no, absolutely. I agree. International friendlies as well, yeah. Going. Good night, we'll see you soon, I'm sure. Lethal Chicken says, quoting, one of the proposals to be discussed is understood to involve the expansion of both the WSL Championship with the proviso that there would be no relegation between the 2 divisions initially. Yeah, and that's exactly what it did say, yeah. And I think that is what it is. Initially, meaning for a year or maybe 2 years, so they can increase the numbers and then it will come back. But let's not assume anything yet, because we don't know enough about it, do we? But from what you said there, that's how I read it as well, that it was going to be a temporary thing for maybe a year or 2 while they all reorganised the league, which I say happened in the men's game years and years ago when leagues were expanded and stuff. So it's not unusual to do that for temporarily. And if that's what's going to happen, I'll be quite happy with it. Greg says, why not have a few seasons, 2 up, 1 down? Otherwise, the bottom teams won't even. So that's another interesting idea as well. Yeah, that could work as well, couldn't it? That's what they did for the Premier League, didn't they? When they changed the number of teams, they relegated. Did they relegate more? No, they relegated less and promoted more, didn't they? To make it. No, they made it shorter, didn't they? So they relegated more. Yeah, there was one season, wasn't there, in the Premier League where they relegated 4 teams and promoted 2. So they got rid of 2 teams out of the league because they needed to reduce the number because there was 22 teams. So yeah, maybe something like that could work. Yeah, that's an interesting idea as well. Yeah, that might work actually. I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they will do that at all. But let's see. Lethal Chicken says 12 teams isn't enough if we want the gaps to be smaller. We need more games over. Exactly. Yeah, we play, because we're in the Champions League, we've got qualifiers, we play a lot of games. In some ways, you could say we play too many games, but it's not enough league games. I'd rather see more league games, less Champions League games, or less cup games. Maybe make the Champions League smaller and the domestic leagues bigger, but they won't do that. But no, 12 teams is not enough anyway. Absolutely no way is it. LG says the problem with having no relegation is that teams won't have anything to play for, meaning less competitive games. How will West Ham be motivated playing against Chelsea? It's bad enough with one spot. No, I agree. But you've got to think of how else can we increase the numbers without making it. What you could do is, you could just say, well, we're not worried about the standard for a couple of years. Let's promote 4 teams from the Championship into the WSL, right? And maybe relegate 2. So you've got 2 extra numbers there. Bring more teams up from the 3rd tier into the Championship. But then you're going to get a lot of games where Chelsea or whoever it is will be playing some of these extra teams that's got promoted that are nowhere near ready for the WSL, lose 8-0 every week. That's not going to benefit the game moving it forward. You've got to do it in the right way, and it's difficult. I wouldn't want to be the one making those decisions personally, because if you get it wrong, you could set the game back a long way, and it's going to be difficult to get it completely right because there's so many possibilities and so many things that could go wrong if you don't do it right. So it's a tough one, isn't it? But I think having no relegation for 1 season or for 2 seasons, we could probably cope with. Yes, I agree. Teams have got nothing to fight for necessarily, but nobody wants to finish bottom, whether you're relegated or not. It's professional pride, isn't it? If you're a professional sports person, you don't want to be in a team that's finished bottom, even if there's no relegation. You don't want to be finishing bottom, do you? So I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? It is a tough one. But let's see what the final proposals are, what's agreed, and how we move the game forward. in the right way, in a positive way. That's what we want to see, though, at the end of the day. Let's face it. Greg says, as long as we at the top, who cares? Well, no, exactly. I mean, well, I suppose we don't, but I think the women's football is important, and the growth of women's football is important. And I think that I would rather see. Well, I don't know if I'd like it. It's difficult to say. I would rather see the league more competitive overall, have more teams in it, and it be a more competitive league overall, even if it meant our chances of winning it were less, than having a less competitive league and our chances of winning it are more, because that's not to the benefit of women's football as a whole. It used to be like that, didn't it? We used to win the league every year, and the competition wasn't great, really. I mean, we enjoyed it because we love seeing us winning everything, but that's not how the game grows, and that's not what made the game grow. The game's been growing more recently because it has become more competitive, and that's what we need. And our chances of winning the league's reduced. And it's not good that Chelsea win it every year either, absolutely not. But it is tough, isn't it? So I just want to see the game grow, but in the right way. Not all about money, not all about TV deals, but growing organically almost, teams becoming more competitive, the coaching becoming better, at grassroots level upwards and all that kind of stuff. Lots of work needs to be done. I think sometimes everything's too focused on the top. And we're at the top. We're at the top of women's football, aren't we? We're not top of the league, but we're at the top end of it, aren't we? We're one of the top teams in the top league. We're in the Champions League. We're one of the top clubs. So none of it really affects us, but that doesn't mean it's not important, because it's the league that we play in. It's the sport that we watch. It's the sport that we that we spend our time getting involved in. And I think that it is important. So, jokes aside, obviously I want us to win the league every year. Of course, it'd be great. But I want to see women's football develop, and I want to see women's football be better, be more competitive. I don't want to go into a game against West Ham at home and almost expect that we're going to win fairly easily. I kind of like the fact that sometimes you can't predict a result, and every single game you don't know who's going to win. In the WSL, it's quite predictable. You watch Chelsea, they're going to win whoever they play. They're going to win. We're going to win most of our games. Yes, we've the odd defeat here and there we're going to throw in, but we're going to win most of our games. And while it's good for us and it's good for Chelsea, it's not good for the neutral. It's not good for women's football. And I would rather it be more competitive. I would rather not know. I'd rather think to myself, we're going to have to play at our very best to even get a result in this game, and feel like that every week, because that would be good for women's football. That's what I want to see. Obviously, I want to see us winning most of those games, but I don't know. I think it'd be better for the game overall. But anyway, let's see. Terry says, make it every team in the WSL must have 5 English players on the pitch at all times. That's Chelsea winning nothing ever again. Well, they'd probably end up finding the English players, wouldn't they? Greg says it's down to other teams to attract the crowds. They're all a long way. But no, you're right. And I think but that won't happen, will it? If, for example, if you're a West Ham fan, for example, we use West Ham because we're playing them this week. If you're a West Ham fan, why would you bother really going to a game against Arsenal or Chelsea when you know you're going to lose? You haven't got the same motivation to go. As if there's a chance you can win, and there's a fair chance you could win, then you're more interested in wanting to go, aren't you? You're more interested in, I'm going to go to this game because we could win. We could beat Arsenal. You know what I mean? Because at the minute, it's like if I supported West Ham women, yeah, it's your team, you want to watch them, of course you do. But you wouldn't feel the same excitement playing against Arsenal, knowing that you're going to lose 5-0 or 4-0 or 3-0. There's no excitement to the game, is there, for you? And I would like, and that's how the crowds are going to grow. The crowds will grow because everybody's excited that they might see their team win. And that's not the case now, because there's so many games where some teams are never going to win. Crystal Palace are never going to beat Chelsea. They're never going to beat Arsenal. They're never going to beat Man City or Man United. So how can their fans be excited about? Yeah, maybe excited this season because they haven't played them before in the WSL. But you know what I mean? I want to see it be more competitive. That's how the game grows. That's how the crowds grow, because people want to see competitive games. They want to think their team's got a great chance to win. And then you're going to get people coming and making the journeys and travelling and being at the game because they want to experience it. And that's what it needs. And Arsenal, when Chelsea winning 5-0 every week, isn't going to make that happen, unfortunately. Our crowds will be great. Chelsea's crowds might be decent, but it's not going to filter down, is it? One somebody goes, says no relegation. I'm like, no, it won't be permanent, my friend. It will not be permanent. Do not worry about that. It might be a temporary, it might not happen at all. But if it does, it'll only be temporary. So don't worry. We're not going to lose the competitiveness. Ryan says, usually you need 7 English players in the team, I think. Don't know if it's 7. I think that's in the squad, isn't it? And I don't think it's 7, is it? I don't think it's that many. I don't think it's English players. It's what I consider homegrown players, isn't it? So players that have come through academies and stuff. They don't have to be English. They just need to come through your academy system. So yeah, Terry says, if I was a West Ham fan, I'd go to watch Arsenal. Yeah, no, that's not really the point, is it? Because they only play Arsenal twice a season. You want West Ham fans to go every week, don't you? That's how the fans grow. It'd be full of Arsenal fans anyway. I think it's 8. Yeah, so Julia said, I think it's not necessarily. They're called homegrown players. They don't necessarily have to be English. Though. I don't think homegrown means they have to be born in England. It means they have to come through your sort of academy system in this country, as opposed to getting them in from abroad. I think that's what it means. And yeah, there is numbers that you need, and that's fine. And I don't think I don't think the foreign players coming into a bad thing. If we get good foreign players playing in our league, we saw what he did to the Premier League. That's what helped the Premier League really explode, wouldn't it? The great foreign players playing. And we've got great foreign players playing in the WSL, and I like that. That's good. We want to keep that and add to it. But yes, we do need to. We spoke about the Lionesses before. The way to keep the Lionesses competitive is to have English players playing regularly at the top clubs to get that competitiveness. And without some sort of quotas, you're probably not going to get that regularly enough. And that's the way football is. So yeah, Greg says the club needs to put more money into the women's game. At the moment, they're just using them to show they're equal opportunists and don't take the women's game seriously. No, I agree with that. Yeah, you're right. And obviously, most of the money in football is generated by the men's teams, isn't it? Pretty much all of it. The women's teams are struggling for that investment. So subsequently, it's a lot more difficult. And you're right. And I think maybe there should be some sort of agreement put in place where the men's clubs that are attached to the women's teams, not all of them are, to be fair, a lot more are now than they were. Some of them still aren't. Although a Premier League team might have a women's team with the same name, they're not always connected as a club, are they? But if they are, I think, yeah, the men's team should have to give a certain percentage of their maybe sponsorship money, whatever it is, TV money to the women's club. Absolutely, that will be a way for it to grow. But whether the Premier League clubs will agree to that, probably not. But you're right, that would be great, wouldn't it? That's one way to try and even it out a little bit. We've had talk, haven't we, of some women's players are saying equal money, equal pay, blah, 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 right? That's not going to happen. The reason why, because the women's game doesn't generate the money the men's game does. So how can you pay somebody the same amount of money when the money's not coming in to support that? The men's players can get paid what they get paid because the money's generated. The clubs generate that money, whether it's through sponsorships, through ticket sales, through TV money, through loads of different avenues, merchandise. The women's teams don't have that money coming in themselves. So they can't pay the players the same amount of money. They just can't do it. And we were talking before about the ticket prices, right? It's great that ticket prices are very, very reasonably priced, right, for WSL games. Brilliant. As soon as we start giving the women's game getting more money, ticket price will go up. As soon as you want to pay women's players more wages, ticket price will go up. Do we want that? Tough, isn't it? It's a tough one. Because I like the fact that the price of the tickets are competitive. They are value for money. But it's going to mean that women's game isn't going to generate the same amount of money, is it? You can have 56,000 at the Emirates for a women's game, and it would be generating similar amount of money to if there was 10,000 in a men's game, probably, or maybe even less than that. That's the difference. That's the difference there, isn't it? And that's where we need to find that balance to get that more even, really, don't we? But not just by putting the ticket prices up, because putting ticket prices up would solve that problem, that gap, wouldn't it, to a certain degree? But that's not what we want to do, because the women's game's not about that, is it? The women's game it's a family thing. You want to take your kids, all this kind of stuff, and when I was, you know, when my kids were younger, trying to get them into football, it was very, very difficult to take them all to games because of how expensive it was. And it was inaccessible to do that. So I had to maybe take one at a time or sometimes two. Couldn't take them all together. So now in the women's game, you're more able to do. You can take all your kids. If you've got 10 kids, you can take them all because the ticket prices are cheap. And that's great. But it isn't going to bring the money in when there's 56,000 at the Emirates. It's not going to bring the money in to take the women's game to that level. But what do? It's so tough. It is so tough. I mean, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how we can do it. What's the right way? Not that they're ever going to ask my opinion, so it doesn't matter. But you do think about these things. I do, because I want to see the women's game continue to grow. It's been great in the last 2 or 3 years since the Euros mainly, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. There's a lot more that needs to be done, and it's finding ways to do it in the right way. Because I think that's so important. Don't just throw money at it like the Premier League has done. No, we need to do it in the right way. What is that right way? What does that look like? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. Terry says, for £90, you can go and watch Arsenal v PSV. Great value if you want to be mugged by Arsenal. Well, no, exactly, that's what I mean. We don't want to go down that route for the women, do we? It's great that that's not the case. It's great that the ticket prices are affordable for everybody. And that's what football should be. I mean, I saw today, right, someone said they're selling a ticket for this is the men's team, selling a ticket for the Arsenal game against Chelsea. Face value, they said. I'm thinking, face value, £75. Face value ticket in the Emirates for a Premier League game against Chelsea. £75. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And for £75, you can pretty much buy a whole block in a women's game at the Emirates. You can take all your street. You can buy £70. It'll get you a whole street. You can buy a whole street a ticket. You can all go and have a block to yourself. But that's why women's game isn't generating the money. But it's the right way because it means everybody can go. It's tough, isn't it, to get that balance right? It is tough. And I don't want to see the ticket prices go stupid because that's the wrong way. But how else do we do it? How do we fill that gap? No one's going to put the sponsorship money into that same level. TV money is nowhere near enough. What's the answer? I don't know. But let's wait and see what this report comes back with, because I'm really interested to see what plans they've got. You know, this new company that's taken over running the WSL, I want to see what they're about. I want to see what ideas they've got, what their vision is for taking the game forward. And it's interesting. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about it over the next few weeks and few months as more and more comes out about it. Obviously, when the guys are on the show, we'll get everyone's opinion on it, because it's going to be big, isn't it, for women's football? It's the future. It's like shaping the future of the game. And they've got to get it right. Otherwise, all this great work that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years will be thrown away, won't it? So, but let's see. I tell you, that's a good point. It's better football. It is much, much better football. It is much better football. And I will say this to anybody, right? And this is going back, you know, long before I was doing the show on the channel, long before women's football was as popular as today. I've always said to everybody, go and watch women's football. You'll be surprised how enjoyable it is. You know, and I've had so many people over the years say to me, "Oh, it's not the same as a men's game. It's crap. It's too slow. Blah blah blah." Just watch it. Go and watch it. Give it a chance, and there'll be no going back. Honestly, if you like football, how can you not like women's football? Because it's everything good about football without all the negativeness that you get in the men's game now. But you know, anyway. Ryan says the women will never be paid the same as men because they can't afford the men. Well, no, at the moment they can't, no, because there's not the money there, absolutely. And the two ways they'll get the money is one by big sponsorship deals, big TV deals, and by putting ticket prices up. Which you don't want really either of those two things. The sponsorship's okay; they get big sponsorships in, but no, as things stand now, it doesn't mean it won't ever happen. But let's hope it isn't going to be the fans that end up paying for it all. These clubs have got enough money to be able to give a better deal to the fans. At the moment, women's football fans are getting a good deal, and I'm happy. Men's football fans are being absolutely ripped off, mugged off, as Terry rightly put it. Absolutely. So I don't want to see that happen in the women's game. I don't feel ripped off at all. When I go and watch the women's team, I'm going in a few weeks' time to a game. I don't feel ripped off, so I feel good value. I'm happy. I'm thinking, wow, this is brilliant. And I want to feel like that. I don't want to feel like, oh my God, I've got to remortgage my house just to get a ticket for one Premier League game and go into a ballot to maybe be picked. Oh, you've been lucky, you've been picked. Yeah, I've been picked. I've still got to pay 75 quid, don't I? Nah, sorry, not having it. Joe says, does the WSL teams do season? Yeah, of course they do. Yeah. Arsenal got season tickets for WSL. They're cheap as well. Andreas has got one. He's got a season ticket. You can get season tickets for the women's game. Absolutely. Yeah. Which is good. But again, the ticket prices are cheap, which makes it good. But where's the money coming from? Terry says, women's football has come on leaps and bounds over last. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's improved massively. Absolutely, it has. It's chalk and cheese. I mean, you can go back to when Arsenal were the dominant team. And you look at, even now, find clips on YouTube. You'll find them. There's clips out there. Obviously, not as many clips as you can see now, but there are clips out there. Look at the standard of football. It wasn't great. It wasn't. We enjoyed it because we won, but it wasn't great. It's a million times better now. The quality and the standard is fantastic. It really is. Greg says, I heard the kit ladies from Man United might be coming to Arsenal. Well, I don't know about that. Joe says, I used to avoid women's football. Then I caught Lauren Hemp playing and I was hooked. It reminds me of old football. Exactly what it reminds me of is like, your local non-league team. It's that kind of vibe, isn't it? Of the crowd, and you feel a connection with the team and the players, all that kind of stuff. But the football's great. The football is great. Ryan says, we don't want the socks. No, we definitely don't want the socks, no. But no, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? I love women's football for what it is. I love the vibe of it, the atmosphere of it, the price of it. But I also want it to grow. And we're going to lose all that, aren't we? We are going to lose all the stuff that we love about it, probably. But I'm prepared to give this this new company that are running it the chance. Let's see what they're all about. Let's see what this is. Let's not jump to the wrong conclusions yet. Let's not be too cynical about it. It might end up being fantastic. It might end up being just what the women's game needs. And if it does, then that's great, isn't it? But let's see what it is first. Let's see what decisions are made. And obviously, I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot more over the next few months. I'm sure we will. The rest of the season is going to come up, isn't it? There'll be bits and pieces about it. But no, I agree, Joe. I years and years ago, I wouldn't have necessarily looked at women's football particularly favourably. I agree, but things change. They do change, and I'm so pleased I got into women's football, and I've enjoyed so many great moments watching the Arsenal women and watching the women's football grow. That's been the most important thing to me, is watching how the women's game has grown in a technical level, in terms of the crowds and stuff, the way the atmosphere has changed and all these kind of things. Being part of that growth and watching it happen around me has been fantastic, actually. It really has. And yeah, I'm hoping that it doesn't end up being like a new Premier League, because that's not what we want. Greg says the skill level in women's football has now surpassed the Premier League. I mean, I think that's a bold statement, if I'm honest. I think that technically the players are as good. There's not much doubt about that. You look at the ball control that they've got and all this kind of stuff. It's as good. Obviously, the men's game is more physical and it's faster. Of course it is, because that's biology, men and women, biology. Of course it is, and that's fine. I think on a technical level, there's not a lot of difference now. The women's players, they're coached in the same way. They're trained in the same methods. Their fitness is great. Their technical level is great. So I wouldn't say it's surpassed the Premier League in terms of technical level. I'm not sure about that. It's certainly not far behind at all. And in fact, some players are equally as good in that. I wouldn't say they're better technically. I don't know. It's difficult to compare, isn't it? Because if you had a men's team, even a championship, average championship men's team, or a League One men's team against a top WSL team, the men's team would win. Not because they've got better skill levels, because they're faster and stronger. It's difficult to know, isn't it? Are women more technically better? I don't know if they're better. I certainly think it's pretty much equal. Joe says there, does it need more Michelle Kangs of this world financial input? Maybe. Yeah, maybe it does. But it needs to be something that's sustainable. And I don't think that's necessarily sustainable long term, but I don't know. Terry says the goalkeepers years ago used to let women's football down, but now, no, I agree with you. Yeah, I think that's one aspect that's really improved. I just think it's been improved all round, actually. I say it's chalk and cheese. Joe says, my bugbear is comparing men to women's. It's like comparing apples to pears. Exactly, yeah. It is. And I think it's too easy, isn't it? It's a lazy comparison, isn't it? And people that watch the men's going to, oh, look at this, they're rubbish. Well, no, they're not. It's just different, isn't it? You know, in the same way that any women's sport, well, I say any, most women's sport is different to men doing the same sport because men are stronger, faster, so it makes it look better in some way, doesn't it? Is it better? Really, I don't think so. But it looks better. So like men's tennis looks better than women's tennis because they're stronger and they're faster. They get across the court quicker and they hit the ball harder and all this kind of stuff. And the women's game is a bit more technical, you know, a lot more slice and a lot more, I don't know what the word, style maybe a little bit more perhaps, but it doesn't look as good. And I think that's the same across most sports that men and women play. Men look better because they're faster and stronger. And unfortunately, it's easy to make that comparison, isn't it? But that's not the way to compare it. Absolutely isn't. Because men and women are different physically. Of course they are. It is, yeah, apples and pears. Of course it is. Absolutely it is. What's better and what's worse? Everyone's got their own opinions on that. And that's fine. I mean, look, if there's people out there, there'll be loads and loads of people out there that love men's football and they don't like women's football. And that's absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? But all I'm saying is at least give women's football a try. Watch it. See what, and if you watch it a few times and you don't like it, fair enough. You know what I mean? But don't just say, oh, it's crap because it's women. No, watch it first, then have an opinion on it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. But certainly don't slag other people off for liking it and don't call it crap or whatever it is, because that's not true. You might not like it and that's fine. It's not crap. You just don't like it and that's different. Joe says there, not you, it's just usual. It's crap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Read comments like 16-year-old youth team fresh to women's top two. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Obviously, a men's team, even a young men's team, is going to probably beat a women's team just on a physical level. Of course they are. Do you know what I mean? Physically, of course they are. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Greg says women's football is a sport of its own, and if you really like football, you can see women's football is far more enjoyable than men's ballet. No, I agree. Absolutely, you're right. Of course they're different, and it needs to be looked at differently. And we shouldn't be comparing it, and we shouldn't be saying, well, they deserve equal this, equal that. No, the two are different and need to be treated differently, but you can enjoy both of them. I enjoy both of them. Well, I don't enjoy the men's game so much now, but I do enjoy men's football and I enjoy women's football, and that's fine. And I appreciate that they're different, and that's what we need to understand, really. But hopefully this new company running the WSL will keep treating them differently as well, because at the end of the day, that's what needs to happen. We need to grow the women's game the right way, and understand that it can't grow in the same way the men's game grows because it is different. But anyway, I'm sure we're going to talk more about this over time as more and more comes out and the agreements are reached and decisions are made. It's just speculation at the minute, really, isn't it? One thing the guy says, men are quicker, faster, stronger, taller. You shouldn't compare men versus women. Of course you should. And that's the same in life, though, isn't it? We've now got to a place, haven't we, in 2025 where everybody seems to be, everybody's got to be equal. And being equal isn't being the same. And I think that's quite important to remember. You know, men and women are equal in terms of, or should be equal, should be looked upon equally. Doesn't mean we're the same. Just because you can be treated equally, given equal opportunities and all this kind of stuff, doesn't mean that men and women are the same, because we're not the same. We'll never be the same. And we should embrace the differences rather than almost try to ignore the differences. We should be embracing them. Men and women are different. Men have got certain things they're better at. Women have got other things that they're better at than men, and that's fine. It's a compliment. That's how the human race has grown, because men and women are different and they complement each other. And if they didn't, there'd be no more humans on the planet, would there? Let's be honest. So it's important that we do recognise the differences. We embrace the differences, whether it's in sport, whether it's in life, whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with being different. Men and women being different. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's accepting our differences, accepting our strengths and our weaknesses, and you know, that's the best way forward. But that doesn't seem to be the way forward it seems like the only way we're allowed to go forward, everyone's got to be equal. Women have got to get paid the same as men. Women have got to do this the same as men. This, that, and the other. You know what I mean? It's like, no, that's not equal, though, is it? Because men and women aren't the same. But anyway, that's a slightly different argument, although it comes back to the same thing ultimately. Vicky says, women all day. Exactly, yeah, I agree with you. I'm 100% with you. Ryan says, the only good thing, I suppose, women playing against men, it makes the decision-making quicker and faster. Yeah, it's a whole physical thing, isn't it, really? Arsenal 2, Man United 3 in the under-18s quarter-final, 126 minutes. Wow, looks like an exciting game there, doesn't it? Joe says, "Hey up, Vicky has entered the room. Are you playing Sunday?" I don't think it's our Vicky P, as much as we'd like it to be. Or maybe it is. I don't know. If it is you, Vicky P, then yeah, we're very, very happy to have you with us. Some free tickets would be nice. But no, yeah, just it's a good name to have, though, isn't it, Vicky P, at the moment, especially as she could be back Sunday. Anyway, look, this is a sort of different debate really for another time, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot more. We've covered it quite a lot already on this show over the last couple of years. Anyway, it's an important issue, of course it is. We'll be there Sunday. Good stuff on the bench. I'm assuming on the bench, be good. Listen, so you know, it's been a great discussion. Of course it is, and the future of women's football is important that they get it right, and I'm sure they will, and we'll be talking about it. But for the meantime, in the more immediate future, is we've got a game on Sunday. It's going to be a great game. It is West Ham playing at Meadow Park. If you are going to the game, enjoy it. I'm sure you will. If you see Andreas and you can't miss him because he's an 8-foot tall German, do say hello to him, because he is a very friendly German, and he will be happy to speak to you. And that'll be good. So enjoy it. I'll be here for the game, of course, at what time's the kickoff again? 5. I'll be at 5:15 on Sunday for the West Ham game. Villa beat Cardiff 2-0 in the FA Cup, of course, first FA Cup game, which we got knocked out of, didn't we? Lovely. But the women are still in the FA Cup. That's next week. So you join me on Sunday at 5:15 for that game against West Ham. Tuesday we'll be here for the men's game against PSV in the Champions League. Of course, we'll be back next Friday for the Arsenal women's show, again looking back on that game against West Ham, looking ahead to the Liverpool game in the FA Cup next weekend as well, plus probably more of the other stuff that's going on in women's football at the minute. Greg says the future's bright, the future's red and white. Indeed, my friend, it always is, and it always will be. Anyway, we are just about done with the Arsenal women's show. Thank you very much to all you guys in the chat. Brilliant comments as always. Great to have you with us. Thanks to Andreas for his video contributions, as he always does when he can't be with us. Hopefully you've arrived safely in London, my friend, and you'll enjoy the game on Sunday, I'm sure. We will see Andreas next week. Oh, we'll see Andreas next week, because he's probably flying over to the game against Liverpool in the Cup, isn't he? Anyway, we'll sort that out. If he's here, he's here. If he's not, it'll be more videos. It doesn't matter. We'll do a show anyway, regardless. Terry says, Richard, Greg, Joe, everyone in the chat, have a great weekend. See you all Sunday. Indeed, we'll see you all Sunday. I will be here on Sunday. I know I missed the last game. I do apologise. I had a run in the morning. I didn't get back until literally right on kickoff. I needed something to eat and get sorted, and I ended up watching it on telly, and I thought it's pointless coming on doing the show now. I saw your comments on the stream as well, which was quite good. So it looks like you stayed and watched the game on the stream as well. I was there, which was nice. So thank you for that. I do apologise for not being here for that game, but just the time of it didn't quite work out. So I literally got in the door bang on kickoff time, and I'd say I'd done a 10k race. I needed to take to eat. I needed a shower and everything else. So I just watched it on telly and had some food and chilled. But yeah, it was quite funny watching all your comments actually, which was good. 170 goes. So are you going to the FA Cup final? If we're in it, I will. Absolutely. If we're in it, I'm not gonna go if we're not. Unlike Andreas, already got tickets, but he loves it, doesn't he? So yeah, thank you all you guys for watching as always. Thanks for your comments. Thanks to Andreas. We will of course see you on Sunday for the big game against West Ham. It's going to be a good game, I'm sure. Enjoy it. It's just the start of the weekend. The weekend is now officially here, so enjoy the rest of your Friday night and enjoy Saturday. There's no Arsenal men this weekend to spoil everything. It's all about the women on Sunday, so it's going to be a great weekend. The sun's going to be out. It's March. Spring's coming. The flowers are blooming. We've got through the horrible winter, and it's all upwards from here, isn't it? So it's going to be good. So yeah, enjoy the weekend in the sunshine. I will see you Sunday evening at 5:15. Enjoy. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching. Come on, you guys. Let's do it. See you soon, guys.